Inside the dark and gloomy space, pleading voices rang out incessantly. "Save me, it's coming, we're going to die. What are you standing there for? Close the door immediately." Bloody scenes occurred one after another. "Stay away from me, help!" A handprint pressed firmly onto the door, accompanied by screams. "Someone save me!" Pillars of strange gray smoke gradually rose into the air. These things looked extremely strange and terrifyingly incomprehensible. The space before their eyes became gloomy and mysterious with these creatures. They crawled along the ground in a disgusting manner. Suddenly, a foot slowly crushed these creatures. It seemed there had been an intervention here. A voice rang out from the walkie-talkie, signaling the soldiers. "Announcement, all soldiers on the ship, gather at the command room immediately." It seems the plan went exactly as predicted, a full retreat. Seeing the situation, the soldiers discussed among themselves. "Some commander he is. Aren't we leaving?" The guy in front turned back to remind them. "That selfish bastard only cares about his own skin. Ignore him. Continue moving as discussed." Saying that, he didn't forget to survey the area. "Try to save as many people as possible. This is an order." The people behind heard this and nodded in understanding. Understood. Strange sounds rang out, making the commanding soldier suddenly realize something was wrong. Voices echoed weakly. "Is anyone here? Save me." This male soldier hurriedly walked along the corridor. "Please." After reaching the end of the path, the soldier quickly turned to check the situation. The next scene made him freeze instantly. Before the eyes of all the soldiers was a mountain of piled-up corpses, looking extremely pitiful. Seeing his teammates seem distracted, the soldier turned back to remind them, "Hey, focus!" They hurriedly entered combat readiness. All watched the rear. "Hurry up and see if there are any survivors left." While everyone was still searching, a voice rang out. "Is anyone here?" A bloodied hand reached out. "Help me get out." The soldier saw this and hurriedly approached. "Hang in there a little longer," but the next scene made him instantly freeze. The terrifying figure of a creature with a round head and glowing eyes suddenly appeared. "I heard so much, someone please save me." An morph with a giant round head suddenly appeared. "It hurts, someone save me." Seeing this situation, a soldier hurriedly screamed, "Monster!"
Just as he finished speaking, a giant hand grabbed him. This scene caused the soldiers behind to be slightly startled and surprised. Amidst the corpses, the mutant monster Amorth suddenly appeared. His jaws opened wide, baring his teeth with a look as if he wanted to devour them alive. Seeing this situation, the soldiers immediately raised their guns, spotted the enemy, and opened fire. Loud explosions rang out as the monsters suddenly rushed forward. He was extremely agile, weaving through every bullet from the soldiers. At the same time, his flexible body slowly came into view. Without anyone realizing when, he had jumped onto the wall, eyeing the group of soldiers. Suddenly, liquid shot straight at the armored soldiers. Before they could react, this liquid corroded all of them, causing them to scream in pain. Acid syrup. At the same time, another soldier hurriedly ran over, shouting, "Calm down, inject the medicine quickly." Unfortunately, at that moment, he was accidentally hit by a bullet from another soldier.
The scene was extremely fierce. One by one, people fell down accompanied by echoing screams. At the same time, a signaling voice rang out. "Emergency treatment complete. Please move to the infirmary immediately." The poor soldier slowly opened his eyes and looked ahead. Before his eyes was the scene of the amorph still gnawing on the bodies of his teammates. This terrified him so much that he sprang up. Damn it! This situation left him at a loss for what to do. This damn monster! Suddenly, the guy noticed a bomb still hidden on his person. While he was still terrified, the amorph suddenly appeared in front of the monster. Seeing the strange thing confused him greatly. This pink creature continued to jump down right in front of the soldier. An explosion rang out. The scene before his eyes terrified him greatly. In just the blink of an eye, this pink creature had wrapped itself around the soldier. And so, the amorph continued its work of devouring all the survivors. After dealing with the remaining one, the pink creature quickly jumped into the air. It finally returned to the amorph's shoulder and sighed in relief.
Both of them quickly left this place, leaving behind skulls still scattered on the ground. Suddenly, seeing something made Amorph immediately pay attention. Before his eyes was a door leading to the vast outside. He immediately grabbed a human hand and put it into the scanner. At the same time, a notification voice sounded. "User not registered. Access denied." This made Amorph extremely furious as he glanced towards Ameb. He grabbed a bomb from the soldier just now and held it forward. The bomb was thrown straight by him at the giant door. A loud explosion rang out, and the terrifying figure of Amorph slowly walked forward. He slowly walked to the next location with his own purpose. His teeth were stained with blood to a terrifying degree. Just seeing Amorph made the survivors become extremely despairing. He still didn't care and walked step by step forward. This situation made the survivor become extremely frightened and scream. In the final moment, Amorph rushed forward to attack this poor guy.
The story is retold. I am a not-so-friendly alien creature, devouring everything and evolving ceaselessly. Time rewinds to the past, amidst the vast universe, inside the cargo hold of a ship made of cold metal. I must admit, I became a ferocious alien creature through this sci-fi survival game. Everything gradually began, survival in outer space. In this survival game, everyone must choose one of the species living in this vast expanse, then survive, explore, and evolve. Many things happened. Sometimes one would be a mechanical gremlin, crushing human ships, but others changed, sometimes becoming mutant monsters, slaughtering enemies on the battlefield. Fierce battles occurred incessantly, and one could even become a leader, possessing a hive mind, conquering other planets. This game made players fall deeply in love with it. I have played as all the most terrifying cosmic creatures, but I only truly loved one single species, the space-aggressive xenomorph, abbreviated as MDHK. At that time, the main was extremely interested when looking at his creation. I often call it Amorph, based on a creature in a movie about aliens, a species that uses the genetic information of victims to infinitely strengthen itself. At first glance, the power is overpowered, but because it's hard to survive long-term, plus the inability to communicate or coordinate with other species, it became one of the worst minority species in the game. The reason I like this bottom-tier creature is very simple. He has witnessed many different stories. The ability to evolve and strengthen depends entirely on one's own choices and desires. This is the selling point. Suddenly, a notification appeared before Amorph's eyes. Species, Space-Aggressive Xenomorph, MDHK. State, Larva. Goal, Survival. Current trait, Super Senses. Reading these notifications left Amorph's face immediately bewildered.
The next second, his eyes gradually became interested. However, his current appearance annoyed him a bit. This was the result. He silently remembered the appearance he had created in the game. Who told him to like that alien movie so much? Amorph hurriedly turned his head to search around, but thinking more about it wouldn't solve anything. A sensation spread throughout his body, causing Amorph to involuntarily scream inwardly. It was so itchy. He looked at his current form in panic. He didn't expect the molting process to be so uncomfortable. Realizing something, Amorph hurriedly crawled out. He had to find something to eat first. He was in pain and starving to the point of fainting. Amorph's tiny figure continued to crawl around searching the space. This large door attracted his attention, but looking at the design, it seemed this was a ship of Megacorp or the Hanyi Planetary Association. But getting caught now would mean certain death. He quickly used his tail to check. Supersense. An image appeared right before Amorph's eyes.
On the other side were extremely strange ship holds containing goods. Cardboard boxes were continuously stacked evenly within the ship. Electric lights illuminated everywhere. All of this was sensed by Amorph. Successfully pinpointing the location, Amorph hurriedly rushed forward. Found it. Finally, he crawled onto a carefully password-locked door. He continued to observe the space here, then gradually brought his tail closer. Luckily, there was a passcode. Let's see. His face gradually became incredulous. You're kidding. 1, 2, 3, 4? Seriously? A space game with security like this? Suddenly, rising columns of smoke caught Amorph's attention. Wasting no time, he hurriedly tore open a bag of bread. The giant mouth with sharp teeth quickly enjoyed the meal. It seemed Amorph wasn't satisfied with this meal. It felt like chewing on rubber, but oh well, as long as there are nutrients. Realizing something had just crawled past, Amorph turned his head. He used his tail to stab hard into the body of the poor cockroach just now.
Looking at the creature struggling ceaselessly, he was a bit curious. A cockroach. After tasting it, Amorph had to give a compliment. So delicious. The system suddenly displayed a notification before his eyes. Activated predatory effect. Successfully obtained wing gene. Received wings from the biological characteristics of a cockroach. Do you want to use the wings? Yes or no? Amorph was immediately surprised. So lucky. Just started and already got a gene. To explain a bit about what Amorph just said, genes are the key component in Amorph's development. The more genetic information possessed, the stronger he becomes. Reading the system notification made Amorph ponder. Wings. Not bad. He did not hesitate to reach out and confirm the yes button on the screen.
His body suddenly sprouted two incredibly strange horns. After some time passed, these two horns finally developed into a pair of wings, making Amorph rejoice. Wonderful. Realizing something wasn't quite right, he immediately became bewildered. It was cool and all, but how was he supposed to move now? For some time after that, Amorph continued to test his limits. The wings were on his back, so he had to move his trapezius muscles. After managing to fly for a short period, Amorph pondered deeply. I get it now. His current appearance was incredibly strange as he flew up into the air, and so he continued to dive into enjoying food to develop further. Sweat kept pouring down his face. Had he really consumed that much energy already? Realizing that cockroaches kept appearing in this place, Amorph took notice. His eyes immediately lit up as he silently thought, to use these wings effectively, I need a skill, and here's the first target. In the following time, Amorph used his tail to attack the cockroaches. After taking down any cockroach, he shoved them all into his mouth. Amorph enjoyed this meal and felt extremely satisfied, 20 cockroaches in total, but it still wasn't quite enough. His eyes showed a bit of disappointment as he continuously ate the cockroaches. It felt like eating chicken. The system notification appeared again. Species, space-aggressive xenomorph, MDHK, larva state, survival goal, existing traits, super senses, wings, chitin shell. These details caught Amorph's attention. Chitin shell helps increase defense depending on the growth level. This skill is decent, but fully developing it takes a bit of time. He annoyingly scratched his head. I need the intense vitality trait, but it seems one can't just get it by wanting it. Intense vitality is a trait that helps prevent aging by minimizing energy consumption. Amorph knew this information well. Usually, this trait is found more in passive insects or plants, and it significantly reduces the need for food.
Sometime later, he continued searching the surroundings, meaning that to survive, he had to catch even more cockroaches. Realizing that food in this area was gradually running out, Amorph quickly jumped to another side. It was time to change his hunting ground. Although his figure was small, his body was very tough. It seemed Amorph had become accustomed to gliding. Noticing 2 cockroaches in front caught his attention. He truly was a formidable Amorph. Seeing something flying towards it caused the cockroach to turn its head in surprise. The next second, it was about to become prey for him to enjoy, while the remaining cockroach had been knocked far away. Unable to waste time, he quickly put these cockroaches into his mouth. Noticing the remaining cockroach running away caught his attention. Damn it! So Amorph hurriedly chased after this cockroach. Don't even think about escaping. Perhaps due to his large body, Amorph accidentally bumped into the door. His eyes showed a bit of disappointment as he looked at the cockroach still crawling into the corner. Unable to stand it anymore, he immediately used his tail to strike towards the cockroach on one side. The cockroach's body was pierced by his tail, causing it immense pain. Amorph had opened his mouth wide long ago to await this meal. The pitiful cockroach now remained only as a few small crumbs. A system notification rang out, activating the predatory effect, which caught Amorph's attention. Accompanying that was a system notification. Successfully obtained the intense vitality gene. Received intense vitality from the biological characteristics of the cockroach. Do you want to use intense vitality? Yes or no? Amorph suddenly felt excited. Of course, yes. His limbs gradually became stronger.
Along with that comes an incredibly sturdy outer shell. Seeing himself evolve once again makes Amorph extremely satisfied. Just perfect. But the sound from outside rings out, catching his attention. At the same time, Amorph also realizes an incredibly important fact. Humans, the masters of the spaceship, are my enemies. The vibrations behind the walls and the faint footsteps have told me so. There isn't much time left to hide from the grim future approaching, so I must surpass the larva state as quickly as possible. To do that, I must expand my range of activity beyond this ship compartment. Amorph continues to look around the space before his eyes and thinks, this is just the beginning. It is time to escape the ship compartment, the place where I first set foot. Thoughts keep rising in Amorph's mind, making him hesitate. Where should I go next? I have already chosen my next stop. In front of him is an emergency exit door that has been securely locked, the cooling chamber next to the reactor. This is a critical area, so there won't be too many people loitering around, and if anything happens, no one will know. Amorph quickly approaches to observe the situation. If it doesn't look good, destroying the cooling chamber and fleeing immediately is also an option.
As Amorph climbed to the ceiling, the cramped space before his eyes caught his attention. Seeing the opportunity right in front of him, he hurriedly crawled up. All right, let's go. He realized a strong wind was blowing, drawing Amorph's attention. It turned out the cooling fan was still blowing ceaselessly, accompanied by gruesome sounds. Sweat poured down his face. Oh my God, scared to death. For the next moment, Amorph carefully used his anims to remove each screw. Finally, the protective cover of the fan was knocked away into the distance. Seizing the opportunity, Amorph moved even closer to the cooling fan. If I damage this ventilation machine, the artificial intelligence will report it to the humans immediately. I have to time it right to sneak past the fan blades. Suddenly, a magical blue stream of gas appeared before him. It was time to utilize Amorph's power. He continued to observe the space more closely. Iron oxide and metal dust oxidized in the air. Strong winds kept blowing towards Amorph. Not to mention, the joints of the spinning blades were too worn out, causing them to slow down slightly. Seeing that the moment had arrived, Amorph dashed forward. His brain, after absorbing all the data, said, time to jump through. He did not hesitate to fly forward. All or nothing. Time seemed to stand still in this place as Amorph rushed through the fan. Unfortunately, his tail accidentally hit a fan blade. But fortunately, Amorph successfully infiltrated the interior. Realizing his awkward situation made sweat pour down like rain, he made it through, still alive and kicking. Not wasting any time, he hurriedly crawled forward, wondering what was coming next. Amidst the dark space in front of him, Amorph surprisingly recognized a spider. Sometime later, he bewilderingly listened to the conversation among everyone. "Hey, how is the result of test subject number 026? The group of humans continued discussing. "Failed again. We're definitely getting scolded by the boss again." The two men were still enthusiastically talking about this issue. "She comes from Earth after all. Even the commander got led by the nose. So who are we? Just consider today unlucky." Hearing the two men's conversation, Amorph surprisingly thought, "Laboratory? I thought this was just a normal spaceship, but looking at this, it resembles Megacorp more." Explaining a bit about what he is thinking, Megacorp is a group of wealthy people across the solar system. To put it simply, they are a race based on the Earthling model, where the ones holding national power are not the government, but giant corporations.
It seems these people are extremely dangerous, and most residents here are extreme materialists. In this game, the majority of humanity stands in a neutral position, while they, Megacorp, lean more towards the role of villains. This information made Amorph hesitate, not knowing what to do. Megacorp is the only faction that modifies normal humans into slaves, regardless of how they are in real life. Just looking at them in game shows they are no good, and so Amorph quickly took flight and flew to another location. Amorph immediately landed on the ground below, silently thinking about what he might harvest today. He used his two antennae to sense the space in front of him. He still had to determine what kind of experimental spaceship this was before deciding his next move. Before him was an incredibly powerful monster. If this was a research center for mutant giants, a type of ground infantry, then he could sponge off their robust bodies and combat abilities. But Amorph also thought of another path. If this was a place experimenting on races with supernatural powers, like the psionics, then those divine powers would fall into his hands. Thinking about this made him even more excited. Honestly, he preferred the latter, though he didn't know if he possessed divine power yet. Suddenly, weak sounds rang out. "Save me." This caught Amorph's attention. Someone needed saving, and so he walked towards the experimental space in this area to examine the situation.
Before Amorph's eyes was a pink space under human control. "It hurts, help me," he thought in surprise. It was a spherical amoeba. His face immediately went blank. This species had the characteristic of storing oxygen, needing no food or drink. But what did Amorph need this trait for? He continued to use his ability to sense the surroundings. It was time to use super senses to find clues. An electric current ran through the amoeba's body, catching Amorph's attention. Electricity? Was this what those researchers were talking about earlier? Found it! He proceeded to approach the control console and pressed a button. According to his super senses, pressing here would end the experiment. Beeping sounds incessantly rang out from the machine, while the amoeba also gently spoke up. "Thank you," he silently thought to himself. "Live well." Footsteps from outside made Amorph turn his head in fear. Someone was coming. With no other choice, he hurriedly used his wings to flee the scene. Finally, he found himself a very safe empty spot. Amorph lay still there, waiting to see what would happen. Meanwhile, the footsteps of a woman slowly approached this place. Kisaragi, annoyed, loudly asked Wei, "When will I get to see experiment number 026 show promise, huh?" Wei quickly ran after her, flattering, "There will definitely be progress soon. I just need you to give me a little more time." Hearing this, she turned back in annoyance to scold him. "Time is money. Before we arrive, I need to have results to report back to the company." After saying that, she didn't forget to threaten Wei that if there were no further changes, they might reconsider whether to hire him or not. This threat made him become extremely terrified.
With no other choice, he hurriedly begged, "Don't, please." After a moment of thought, Kisaragi suddenly called out, "Senior researcher. No, Mr. Wei." His whole body began to tremble. "What?" She didn't hesitate to step towards Amorph to observe. "Of course, I don't want that to happen either, because I have high expectations for you." Her eyes seemed to carry hope as she looked at the creature in front of her. "If you can meet those expectations regarding test subject 026, your appointment as head researcher will be a trivial matter." His eyes gradually changed. "Really?" Kisaragi's words seemed incredibly trustworthy, at the very least becoming a head researcher, and if things went even smoother, he might even stand on equal footing with Moss.
Her voice kept echoing, causing him to fall silent in thought. "You know they are paying close attention to our project, don't you?" After a moment of silence, Wei suddenly asked Kisaragi, "What do you think about using psionium?" This remark startled her slightly. Psionium? But she quickly regained her composure, stroking the small cat in her arms. "The awakening drug manufactured by the Star River Association. I see we haven't used it yet." He was about to add something. Many people say that. Kisaragi interrupted him directly. "We have tried everything and similar components, except for psionium itself." After a moment of thought, she decided, "All right, use it immediately." Wei was about to object. "What? But if the neutralizing agent isn't absorbed, it will threaten the subject's life."
It seems she didn't care much about these words. Strictly speaking, we should be witnessing the results by now. Wei's voice stammered. "I know, but..." She didn't care much. "I hope you understand how serious the current situation is." Having no other choice, he reached for the control console. "I understand. I will use it right now." The two quickly monitored Ameep's current form. First, injecting 0.01 milligrams, 0.03 milligrams, 0.05 milligrams.
Looking at Ameep's current state caught his attention. It's reacting. Next, 0.07 milligrams. Kisaragi suddenly called out, "Wait!" She just had a crazy idea. Increase the dosage. Use it all for me. He was about to say something more. What? But that will... Of course, she didn't chair and pressed the yellow button on the side. Hurry up. The selenium substance from the tube was quickly delivered straight into Ameep's body. Unable to bear it anymore, she immediately screamed in despair. Stop! It hurts! Help! Listening to these sounds of despair made Kisaragi even more delighted, bursting into laughter. Help! It hurts! Amorph on the side also witnessed this entire scene. Please, pain, help! Sometime later, Kisaragi's face immediately became serious.
Kisaragi looked at Amorph's current state. The result was interesting. Proceed with further experiments on sample 026. Wei asked worriedly, "Is that really okay?" "Of course." She walked out without caring much. "It's all fine. Let me know if there's anything interesting." He nodded in understanding. "I understand." Realizing something was wrong, Kisaragi turned her head back in annoyance. But before her eyes was just an empty space, which baffled her, and so Kisaragi quickly left this area. Sweat flowed continuously down Amorph's face. Did it just call for help? He was extremely hesitant, not knowing what to do. So annoying. I don't like this at all. He immediately recalled Kisaragi's current attitude and decided, in a few days, I'll send her on her way. The scene before his eyes was filled with toxic gas pipes, connecting continuously. The scenery here had become extremely strange because of these pipes. All the pipes appeared interlaced like threats. Amorph was still focused on doing something. Seizing the opportunity, he suddenly spat a glob of saliva forward. Looking at his achievement, he was satisfied. Great, it's done. At the same time, the small antenna quickly observed and sensed everything around. Amorph closed his eyes tight. The entire ship seemed to merge into his body. Thoughts kept appearing in his mind. Know the enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles with no danger. What the enemy is doing, where they are, who they are talking to. All this information will be transmitted to the brain through the fluid I have sprayed everywhere. He recalled his long period of effort. After 4 days of being an Amorph, his lair was finally complete.
The story continues to be recounted by Amorph after completing his nest. I moved ceaselessly between the nest and the ship's hold, looking for cockroaches and spiders to fill my stomach. At the same time, I also closely monitored my target to gather more information. Amorph approached the ventilation duct high above and observed, "She leaves the room at a specific time every day, doesn't she?" It seems he has gathered all the information about the woman before his eyes. Her name is Kisaragi Yujin, the head of the research department here. This ship might not be strong, but she is still the most important person and simultaneously a threat to my survival. Time rewinds to the past. 2 days ago, there was a test subject that escaped while the other researchers were still in panic.
Kisaragi appeared extremely calm as she directed everyone. She had constructed a specialized tracking device in just 2 hours and successfully captured the specimen. This made Amorph even more vigilant. If that specimen had crawled into the vents, he would have been discovered as well. He had to separate her from the group as soon as possible. Sensing something was amiss, Kisaragi annoyed turned her head back. She quickly noticed the ventilation duct on one side, feeling as if someone was watching her. Seeing her strange reaction surprised the people behind her. Is there a problem? Kisaragi shook her head and informed everyone. Nothing, let's move. Meanwhile, Amorph in the vent became terrified. He breathed a sigh of relief once she had left the area. This woman was human but insanely sensitive. Did she possess some kind of divine power? A brief explanation of what he was thinking. Divine power is a trait unique to non-human tribes, including powers such as telekinesis, teleportation, and mind control, similar to supernatural powers. Things are not quite that simple, but occasionally, within the entirety of humanity, a few are born with divine power. Amorph ate protein bars while silently calculating. This woman had good skills, was very cunning, keen, and always had soldiers accompanying her. How could he approach her? Suddenly, the system displayed a notification before his eyes. Species, Space Aggressive Xenomorph, MDHK. State, larva state. Goal, survival. Current traits, super senses, wings, chitin shell. New, paralysis poison. Amorph saw this and thought in surprise. Paralysis poison. It seemed he was extremely interested in his new skill. Having this trait while his body was still weak was just too good. Amorph continued to think about what he should do next. Just 1 drop was enough to take down an adult. The effect only lasted for 5 minutes, but it was still fine. Remembering something made Amorph suddenly fall into deep thought. To use it, he had to wait for a moment when she was alone, but that woman always had people following her. Thinking of this, he suddenly looked at the protein bar in front of his eyes. Just thinking about it forever wasn't the way. And so, Amorph immediately slipped away to another side, going out to get some fresh air to clear his head.
Sometime later, Amorph took the protein bar to the laboratory. As soon as Ameep saw him, she immediately greeted him. "Nice to meet you." Seeing her react like that surprised him greatly. "You look better than yesterday. I brought some food for you today." This made her surprised. "Food?" Amorph delicately tore the protein bars into small pieces and put them inside. These pieces of food quickly moved into Ameep's mouth. After enjoying the food, she was extremely delighted. So delicious. Witnessing the scene, Amorph silently thought, "In this game, the tapeworm Ameep doesn't have any special skills, but I don't know if this is the right species, or if this one is different."
The scene before his eyes suddenly made Amorph remember something. Speaking of which, that woman has a cat, doesn't she? The image of Kisaragi holding the cat appeared in his memory. Thinking back, she and that cat were quite inseparable. If it dies, will her weakness be revealed? At the same time, he had also calculated the next step of the plan. The cat isn't protected by anyone like Kisaragi is, and it usually just wanders around alone in the room until called by its owner. It's decided then, "Little kitten, I will use you to lure your owner into a trap." Over here, the little cat's tail kept wagging continuously.
It seemed very comfortable with its current life. Looking at the little cat living such a comfortable life made Amorph extremely annoyed. That one's name appeared to be Kaiser. What a spoiled cat. He was trying to find a way to get even closer to it. Being fed until fat and frisky proved that Kisaragi Yujin was no ordinary person. Amorph used his ability to quickly sense everything around him. At a glance, it wouldn't be difficult to take its life, but he couldn't strike right here, because Amorph had carefully observed the strict space here. This ventilation duct looked like nothing from the outside, but using super senses to look deep inside revealed layers upon layers of laser beams. Just a single move would trigger the AI system to sound the alarm. This made Amorph extremely furious, stomping his foot on the ground, only to get it stuck there, which was even more frustrating. This sound accidentally caught Kaiser's attention. It opened its eyes wide, staring intently ahead. It seemed to have detected the anomaly and rushed straight towards Amorph, startling him. Its two paws hurriedly scratched at the ventilation duct, signaling continuously. This surprised the soldiers, who walked over and asked, "What's wrong? Is there an intruder?"
Before their eyes was Kaisa, still playfully scratching at the ventilation duct. This made the two of them sigh wearily and hold their heads. It's just the cat again. And so the two quickly went outside, looking like they just wanted to kill it and get it over with. Amorph, hiding to the side, became terrified. Finally he sighed, having regained his composure. Why did I act so crazy just now? I should have just used my tail to poke it. Realizing something wasn't right, Amorph started in surprise. Wait. He confusedly recalled the scene with Kaisa earlier, a cat looking incredibly lethargic. Then there was Amorph's unintentional action, a slight stimulation. At the same time, someone had witnessed this scene, but didn't care at all. That was the reaction of the guards. Amorph's face immediately became more cunning. A satisfied smile finally appeared on his face. I have found a way to approach. Sometime later, Kaisa was still lying comfortably on the bed. Strange sounds rang out, making it open its eyes in surprise. From the ventilation duct, strange noises suddenly appeared, startling it. Before its eyes was a cockroach, still trembling as it lay there.
Needless to say, Kaisa's eyes sparkled. Unable to endure it any longer, it quickly placed its hand on the ventilation duct. When the vent cover was lowered, its face looked somewhat bewildered. Not wasting any time, Kaisa quickly jumped up and rushed inside. The two soldiers saw this and discussed it in surprise. Hey, where did that cat go? It's just a cat. I don't want to go check on it. And so, the two completely ignored Kaisa. But where could it go? We've been standing guard out here the whole time. Meanwhile, within the narrow spaces of the ventilation duct, Kaisa continuously encountered animals that had all been knocked down there. Reaching the end of the path, it noticed a large ventilation duct appearing before its eyes. Its eyes immediately lit up as it approached this place. It kept crying out continuously to signal. Noticing the cockroach still trembling and lying still there made it extremely bewildered. Simultaneously, while Kaisa was distracted, Amorph suddenly attacked from above. His tail pierced straight into Kaisa's body, injecting poison. A painful sensation throughout its body caused it to scream incessantly, and so it continuously struggled to escape this place, looking extremely pitiful. In the following moment, Amorph opened his mouth wide towards this creature. He did not hesitate to enjoy the delicious dinner he had preyed upon. Oh my god. This meal made Amorph feel extremely satisfied. It was damn delicious. Meanwhile, on this side, Kisaragi hurriedly walked forward. Her appearance caused everyone to be extremely bewildered. At this moment, she was completely furious as she walked forward. While the man was still sitting there, she uncomfortably called out, "Commander." Kisaragi's mood seemed bad. "When will I get to see Kaisa?" Ayu-san calmly spoke up and signaled, "Please wait for the guards to search a bit more." But she had no more patience to wait and screamed, "It's been 2 whole hours already."
Her mood at this moment completely exploded. My Kaisa is very disciplined. It's time to eat. Something must have happened to it. Faced with her anger, Ayusung remained extremely calm. Miss Kisaragi, I told you already, this is a ship. He hesitated slightly and remarked, unless your cat found a way to escape this place. Otherwise, it's still wandering around here somewhere. She still refused to accept it and continuously screamed, then bring it back here to me immediately. Although very annoyed, he still reminded her, I told you, just be patient. Good news will come soon. Inside his head, he silently thought, it's just a cat, why make such a fuss about it? It seemed Ayusung felt extremely dissatisfied. Damn it, if she didn't belong to the nobility, I would have thrown her into confinement already.
Kisaragi still refused to let it go and asked, "Where are the guards?" He calmly announced, "They are all locked up. When we arrive, I will definitely—" Before he could finish his sentence, she coldly ordered, "Execute them all for me." This startled him. What? Kisaragi was still trying to keep herself from going mad. You are the commander. You must have the right of collective dismissal, so use that right. He hurriedly spoke up to stop her. But that is a bit too much. If we use capital punishment just for this, it will affect the morale of the other guards as well. Hearing this, she became even more angry and approached him. Just for this? Seeing the situation was unstable, Yusung hurriedly explained, I mean, to order that, we must investigate carefully first. I don't mean anything else. At this point, Kisaragi did not back down and directly reminded him, Commander, it seems you have forgotten. This happened because your soldiers didn't do their jobs properly. Hearing this, sweat poured down his face. I understand how worried you are. She tried to appear calm, but her face was filled with anger as she heard him say, I will discipline them all at once.
Hearing these words, she finally put her hand on her head and sighed. With no other choice, Kisaragi turned around to leave. All right, I will return in 2 hours. However, her eyes looked as if she wanted to devour him alive. If there is still no progress by then, you should just resign from the commander position. Her imposing manner as she left the place made Yusung freeze. Consumed by rage, he immediately slammed his hand on the table and screamed, Damn it! His temper seemed to have completely exploded. Where the hell is it? All the scenes just now were observed by Amorph. Where else could it be? In my belly, of course. His face became incredibly excited after finishing enjoying Kaiser. Like the trait called Wild Instinct? What was it again? He also explained a bit about what he was thinking. The trait convergence system is something that combines related traits into one and makes them stronger. I have used it so much that I know every root and branch of this combination system. Amorph suddenly recalled, while savoring the flesh of that cat, a notification panel had appeared and stunned him. The content inside appeared. Obtained Wild Instinct from the biological characteristics of the cat. Do you want to use Wild Instinct? Yes or no? This made him realize that it was a trait that even a game addict like him had never seen before. Along with that was a series of new notifications from the system. You have activated Wild Instinct, which can be merged with the existing Super Senses. Merged Wild Instinct and Super Senses, evolved into the trait Predatory Senses.
Information about the new skill continued to be displayed. Predatory Senses, enhancing the Super Senses trait. Based on current information, you can detect impending danger in advance. An elite hunter always knows how to see through their own future. All of this made Amorph realize something important. It said it could sense danger, so I tried to activate it to see. At the same time, Amorph also closed his eyes tightly to sense, but only the super senses were stronger than before. He could notice anything around him, but it didn't create any intelligent effect like I had imagined. Thinking about this made Amorph a bit disappointed. This is probably a passive instinct that activates automatically, and since there is no danger right now, it can't be used yet, right? His eyes lit up as he quickly rushed forward. It is okay to slowly check the traits later. Now I have to see how that woman is doing. Surely she isn't conscious anymore by now. Just as Amorph calculated, over here, Kisaragi angrily slammed her hand on the table. Damn it! Her mood seemed as if she was going completely mad, considering the stabilization process was taking this long. Her reaction surprised Amorph as he witnessed it. Just as he thought, she only behaved humanely towards what she cared about most. She would go crazy the moment she lost what she possessed. A terrifying smile immediately appeared on his face. The second target was done, and now, Amorph continued to observe the guards outside. He would make the separation of Yujin from her guards happen, just as the incident with the missing cat had already caused a significant rift between them. He suddenly recalled the happy scene of Kisaragi feeding Kaiser. At first, the guards didn't care about that cat, but it was often fed the best kinds of meat that they could only dream of. This made the guards extremely uncomfortable. Any normal person encountering this situation would have their blood boil. Many people were dissatisfied with Kisaragi for spoiling her little cat, almost to the point of igniting a class conflict. Yujin is the highest-ranking noble at Megacorp. For the guards who were always forced to do unreasonable things, no one dared to openly resist her.
However, resentment welled up in their hearts, and that cat became the scapegoat to bear her anger in their stead. In other words, it acted like a protective shield. And then came the final detail that caught Amorph's attention. What if the scapegoat was no longer there? And what if the guards had to break their backs searching for something they had always despised? Would they still accept sacrificing themselves to protect her as they once did? All of this was within Amorph's plan. Not only that, even Yujin no longer trusted these soldiers, as the disappearance of her beloved cat was due to their negligence. Amorph was extremely delighted when remembering Kaiser's presence. "Thank you, little kitten." He continued to stare at Kisaragi's current state. It was time to take Kisaragi Yujin's genes. Amorph's eyes slowly closed tight.
Sometime later, Kisaragi's mood completely exploded. Damn it, she couldn't take it anymore and immediately rushed outside. The first thing she did was go to the control room. The only things Kisaragi could vent her anger on were the pitiful experimental subjects. Continuous cries of pain rang out, which finally calmed her down a little. Everything here was just useless trash. Realizing something wasn't right caught Kisaragi's attention. Her face went completely mad as she approached Amit. She looked at her with judgmental eyes. "Right, I choose you." Thinking of something, Kisaragi's smile gradually became haunting. Not wasting any time, Kisaragi quickly pressed the control button. Something was continuously transmitted into Amit's body. Feeling the pain, she couldn't stop screaming in despair. "Stop, it hurts so much, help me!" Feeling it wasn't enough yet, Kisaragi continued to reach out, preparing for the next torture process. Realizing something was wrong, she annoyedly turned her head to look behind. After venting her anger, Kisaragi went outside, leaving Amit trembling in pain there. All of her actions made Amorph extremely furious, but he couldn't do anything. Suddenly, Amit's voice rang out, catching his attention. "Nice to meet you."
He hadn't even had time to react when she raised one of her tentacles to say hello. Her action made Amorph feel extremely confused. Realizing something, he immediately turned around and returned to his nest. His face remained strangely calm as he silently thought, "There's no need for many words. I will offer something he wants even more than a few meager words." In his mind, only 2 words appeared: revenge. On this side, Kisaragi angrily walked over. "The 2 hours are up. What is the result?" Isang hurriedly replied, "I just sent people to search." He quickly advised, "You have to wait a little longer." Her face changed once again. "Commander!" "No, Isang Samuel." She had now gone completely mad over losing her pet cat. "You are going against the will of a noble." Sweat kept pouring down his face. "I am the commander of this ship. Watch your language." But at this moment, she didn't care about those reasons. "Do you know that I have more than enough power to kick you out of this commander's chair?" Kisaragi's face became more distorted than ever as she listened to his words. "Even if you are a noble, you cannot behave so arrogantly. I still have the right to detain you."
These words made her feel a bit ridiculous. "Detained? Did you just say you would detain me?" He hurriedly added, "The commander always has the right to detain anyone showing signs of ignoring orders on the ship." Listening to this made Kisaragi's mood explode more than ever. "Are you crazy?" This situation made Amorph feel extremely interested. There's drama to watch now. If I'm not mistaken, these two were in conflict with each other even before I started watching. Overcome with anger, Kisaragi quickly turned around and walked outside. Behind her were 2 guards following to provide protection. At this moment, she went to the restroom. It seemed Kisaragi was thinking about something. She immediately ordered the guards, "I'm going to the restroom for a bit." Hearing that, they nodded in agreement. "Okay." After entering, she slammed the door right in front of the 2 guards. After a moment of silence, a guard suddenly turned his head and said to his companion, "Hey, I'm going to step away for a bit too." Seeing Kisaragi alone, Amorph quickly approached. The opportunity had arrived. He cherished this chance and crawled continuously through the paths. Usually, a guard would follow her into the restroom, but perhaps today they were fed up with her difficult temperament, and the remaining guard also went off to handle his own business. This played right into Amorph's plan, meaning currently she was alone in the restroom. He resolved not to waste a single second. Moreover, inside there would be no security systems to hinder his attack. Finally, Amorph reached the restroom's ventilation duct. All conditions necessary for an ambush were met. He moved close to the restroom's ventilation duct to observe the situation. Kisaragi was still standing despairingly in front of the mirror. Amorph told himself, "I definitely must not miss this opportunity." While Kisaragi wasn't paying attention, Amorph removed the ventilation cover. She was still feeling terrible because her pet cat had disappeared. Perhaps at this moment she didn't notice that Amorph had appeared behind her back. At the same time, he had prepared poison on his tail. Drops of poison gradually accumulated on Amorph's tail. He did not hesitate to crawl onto the ceiling, approaching the place where Kisaragi was still washing her face. Realizing something was wrong, she slowly stopped her actions. She sighed, trying to calm herself down. But an ominous feeling flooding her body caught Kisaragi's attention. Her eyes gradually became bewildered as she realized something unusual. Unable to bear it anymore, she immediately turned her head to search the surroundings. At the same time, Amorph from behind used the poison from his tail to rush forward and attack. Everything happened so fast that she felt incredibly terrified. Perhaps because Kisaragi discovered this too early, Amorph accidentally missed his attack. The first opportunity to kill her was not as easy as he had thought. Not giving up, he immediately turned around, preparing to attack Kisaragi. His poison successfully pierced into her body. Feeling the poison spreading throughout her body, Kisaragi immediately screamed in despair. In just a short time after that, she was completely transformed to a pitiful state. Her legs collapsed heavily onto the ground.
The once arrogant Kisaragi now had to lie still on the cold floor. Amorph's drool ceased not to flow onto the ground. Seeing this situation made Kisaragi extremely uncomfortable as she raised her head to look forward. She recognized the terrifying face and the red eyes of Amorph staring right at her. At the same time, Amorph also noticed Kisaragi's distorted face. Wonderation? Could it be that she was afraid of dying? Regardless, Kisaragi Yujin must die. Inside his head, he uttered 2 words, farewell. Amorph bit off Kisaragi's head without any hesitation. He felt something changing deep inside his own body. Human blood was gushing within his mouth, and fragments of genetic information that once resided in her blood were now flooding into his brain. Amorph gradually realized his body was evolving to an incredible degree. He could feel it. The pieces that could activate his talents had gathered in one place. A system notification appeared. Conditions for evolution from larva state to juvenile state met. Do you wish to proceed? Yes or no? This was the notification Amorph had been waiting for so long. Finally, he did not hesitate to reach out and confirm the button on the screen. Continuous fragments of memories flashed through his mind, scenes of when Amorph encountered the guards in this place. He gradually looked at the prey appearing right before his eyes. Continuous scenes of red syrup splashing onto Amorph's body, and then his body sank into a sea of bright red syrup. All these memories flashed through his mind, causing Amorph to immediately tremble. All those recent memories made Amorph freeze. What is this? He still didn't understand what the hell was happening here. Is this due to the predatory effect? So this is how it's used. His face was covered in bright red syrup. So according to his predatory senses, a guard is about to enter. Should he slip away? Realizing the situation was unstable, Amorph hurriedly turned around. No, there's not enough time left. And so he quickly climbed up the wall preparing to escape, or just dispose of them all right here once and for all. Rapid footsteps echoed from outside. At the same time, a soldier suddenly stepped in and witnessed this scene.
The next second, the expression on his face completely changed. Before his eyes lay the motionless corpse of Kisaragi. There were even a few teardrops lingering on her face. This situation was so unexpected that the soldier was utterly confused. What had happened? Taking advantage of his inattention, Amorph pounced from behind, causing the soldier to turn his head in surprise. Simultaneously, he used his poison to attack him directly. A terrifying scene unfolded as Amorph attacked yet another person. The massive body quickly collapsed heavily onto the ground. The restaurant now contained 2 corpses along with streams of bright red syrup. Witnessing this situation, Amorph silently thought, his teammates could come here looking for him at any moment. I need to hurry. Strange sounds rang out. Who knows if they have some sort of specialized tracking device, so I should take a roundabout route before returning to the nest. Amorph narrowed his eyes solemnly, focusing deeply on sensing the space around him. After a long while, he hurriedly looked up and around. The parameter check was complete. Then Amorph continued to reach out and confirm the button on the screen. All right, let's roll. The system before his eyes suddenly changed, beginning the evolution from larva state to juvenile.
Amorph's hands were also gradually showing changes. Strange drops of liquid were ceaselessly being excreted outwards. Not only that, Amorph's entire body was covered in extremely strange mucus fluids. He still didn't understand what was happening when these things completely covered his eyes. Instead, new layers of skin were gradually growing. In this damp space, Amorph was about to molt into a new creature. He still didn't know what his current form looked like, but conversely, Amorph felt curious. Interesting, so the memory of a fetus would be like this? I can feel my body transforming into a different shape. It seemed that the layers of bone in his body were gradually shattering. This viscous fluid was reconstructing and forming a very strange life form. I want to witness it myself, but it's a bit difficult. The next second, his body completely dissolved, because the moment he turned into this cocoon, he could no longer control his body. Amorph could only perceive sounds through the clear fluid. Anyway, he had done everything possible. Now he just needed to wait. A long time passed, and Amorph slowly opened his eyes to look at the scene before him. The space here was all enveloped by the mucus fluids he himself had secreted. The cocoon layer, after a long period of hibernation, had become extremely solid. Finally, just a small impact caused this cocoon to completely shatter. A blue-gray body quickly emerged outwards.
It seemed that Amorph had evolved into a creature even more dangerous than that. He quickly set foot on the ground below, Fog gradually appeared in this dark, damp space. Amorph still looked at his hands in disbelief. At the same time, his teeth had developed to become much sturdier. He had turned into a creature with an extremely dangerous appearance. Sometime later, Yu-sung coldly asked his subordinates if they had found the cause of death yet. Seeing this, the subordinate anxiously reported that, according to observations, the head of research lost their life due to an attack on the neck. Everyone present was in disbelief. It was very likely the culprit used something similar to a small saw, but to be sure, further careful observation was needed. Hearing this, Yu-sung, annoyed, continued to question whether further careful observation meant they had to proceed with an autopsy right then. At the same time, the male subordinate hurriedly stood up looking towards him, asking if he wanted him to do that right away. The expression on his face gradually changed. Damn it.
Overwhelmed by helplessness, Yi-sung clutched his head, not knowing what to do. I didn't know if I should or not either. After a moment of thought, Yi-sung probed again. Head of security, how is the search situation on your side? The head of security hurriedly stood up to report what he knew. We have checked all the cameras on the ship but detected nothing unusual. As for the #1 suspect guard, he is currently being interrogated. Hearing this, he suddenly felt curious. Do you think he is the culprit? The head of security's face was extremely determined. According to the information just obtained, it is very likely that he is not. Yi-sung quickly issued an order. When there are results, remember to report back to me immediately. Sweat poured down his face like rain. Realizing something was amiss, he suddenly called out, "By the way."
His next words terrified everyone present. Surely you all know what happened in the laboratory before, don't you? At the same time, Yi-sung slowly addressed everyone. One of the most potential talents defied the head of research's orders, only to have their brain extracted and left floating in a glass tank. Saying this, his face suddenly turned serious. If that is what happened to someone who dared to disobey, then what will be the outcome for being involved in the death of a noble? This made everyone present extremely terrified. He didn't forget to warn everyone carefully. If you don't want to follow in those footsteps, we must find a plausible answer for this matter. Meanwhile, the captain sitting to the side quickly spoke up. What if we say it was an accident during research? The old man right next to him retorted in annoyance. Captain, think carefully before you speak. That story will hardly convince the researchers on this ship. Hearing that, he retorted, if that's called brainless talk, then that's the reason you'll only ever remain in the middle class. The old man shouted angrily, "What did you just say?" Just then, the head of technology suddenly proposed his idea. Then how about this? She died of food poisoning. But the words that followed made him extremely furious. We are going to take responsibility for this? If you want to die, go ahead, but don't drag everyone else down with you, head of technology.
And so everyone present immediately started arguing with each other. What? How dare you speak to me in that tone? Who do you think you are? Unable to stand it anymore, the crisis management manager slammed his hand on the table. Order! While everyone was still confused, he continued speaking. Arguing now will only make things messier. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present immediately fell silent. He continued to turn to look at Yu-sung. Commander, we are currently near planet C-08. Yu-sung felt curious. So what? The crisis management manager's face became incredibly calm. C-08 is the territory of the space dogs. Hearing this, Yu-sung seemed to understand. You mean to say the head of research lost her life because of them? He did not hesitate to nod in confirmation. That's right. You could say we were ambushed, but we couldn't save her in time. Yu-sung's face immediately became contemplative. Space dogs. He knew very well about these so-called space dogs. The space dogs are a gathering of wanderers who loot in space, one of the enemies of Megacorp.
Many battles have occurred, and fleet combat is their specialty, so even a battleship piloted by a seasoned veteran would find it hard to avoid damage. This made Yi-sung feel extremely baffled. We are just a research ship. Can we possibly fight them? Of course not, and the damage is extremely severe. Something unexpected might even happen during the standoff. Thinking of this, his face showed great hesitation, not knowing what to do. If he reported that this ship was attacked by them, he could cover up the death of the head of research. Remembering something, he turned back to look at everyone. This idea wasn't bad, but our weapons aren't similar to those space hounds. Hearing this, the head of the Crisis Management Bureau suddenly announced, I have a few acquaintances here. Let me contact them. Witnessing this situation, Yi-sung immediately held his head. To think this guy actually has such fierce friends. He suddenly probed, how much will it cost? The head of Crisis Management announced without hesitation, at least 1 million. This number made him freeze. Damn it. Noticing the look on Illising's face, the Crisis Management Manager hurriedly explained, even the space dogs would find it hard to lay a finger on Kisaragi Yujin, so this is a fair price for them to handle everything thoroughly.
Having no other choice, Illising nodded in agreement. I will prepare enough, but remember to ensure everything goes smoothly. The man hesitated not at all and nodded in concurrence. Thank you, Commander. Seeing the time was running out, Illising immediately stood up. I will hand this case over to the Crisis Resolution Team Manager, and this meeting ends here. A man hurriedly raised his hand and asked, So how should we deal with this corpse? His gaze turned cold as he ordered. Keep it temporarily, then give it to the space dogs. Don't let anyone touch it. The subordinates nodded in understanding. Understood. Meanwhile, on this side, a morph had completely evolved into an extremely terrifying form. A morph was a bit surprised looking at his current appearance. So this is what becoming a juvenile is like. It feels completely different. He continued to step forward. Now that I've become a juvenile, I must change my plans. This space was originally vast, but now it had become ordinary to a morph. Until now, the main priority was to avoid detection by the enemy, but now the importance of survival and hunting had become equal. This gave a morph a headache, not knowing what to do. Survival is somewhat secured, so I have to calculate my next steps. What is my next target? The system suddenly displayed a new notification. Species, Space Aggressive Xenomorph, NDHK, State, Juvenile. Survival goals successfully evolved one time. Current traits, super senses, wings, chitin shell, paralysis poison, reinforced exoskeleton, acid blood, unknown type. Reading this notification, a morph was slightly surprised. First evolution successful, so that means I have truly become a juvenile. To explain this concept, a morph's evolution process is divided into 6 stages and will require undergoing a total of 5 evolutions from larva to juvenile.
Next is from adolescent to subadult. And finally, there are adult and ascension. Reaching ascension is synonymous with completing the game. That is also the final stage of the amorph. The story continues to be told in this game. If the amorph reaches ascension, all the secrets of this species will be revealed, such as where they came from or who they originally were. It is the same in real life. Amidst the dark space, a morph looked at this notification and silently pondered, but the problem was that achieving an ending was very difficult. Counting himself, only about 20 people had ever seen the ending of a species, and only he could see the ending of an amorph. This made him feel a bit pensive, but it turned out a morph had noticed an unknown type on the system. At the juvenile state, another type could be unlocked. He said to himself, with his current traits, his type would probably be physical enhancement, right? The system suddenly appeared. Currently, there are no unlockable types. Would you like to view potential types to focus on developing? Yes or no? This made a morph extremely hesitant about which option to choose. Should he check it out? Yes. When the notification changed, it displayed the content. Currently, you can focus on 2 types, physical enhancement 6 out of 10, superhuman strength enhancement 1.5 out of 3. A morph quickly noticed he was indeed close to meeting all the conditions for the physical enhancement type, all thanks to the reinforced exoskeleton and acid blood traits obtained when evolving into a juvenile. He silently understood that these types were similar to tribal classes, but slightly different. If the necessary conditions were met, a certain species would be unlocked, combining similar traits together. Remembering something, a morph felt curious, but where did that 0.5 come from? One part must be from predatory senses, but what other trait was similar to that? And so he recalled every creature he had eaten. This made him scratch his head in confusion. He had eaten everything clean up until now. While still racking his brain, a morph suddenly started. I remember. The silhouette of the cruel woman appeared before his eyes, Kisaragi Yujin. She was the only one he hadn't completely eaten yet. Her instincts were very good. It must be because she possessed divine power. And so, a morph hurriedly ran forward. I need divine power. I must go find the corpse. Although his body was now larger, a morph moved extremely carefully. Even so, he was still somewhat unaccustomed to his current body. Now that his body had developed further, the ventilation duct turned out to be too tight. This is bad. A strange scent wafted over, catching a morph's attention. He carefully stepped closer to the ventilation duct to focus his observation. There was the smell of a corpse. His gaze was glued to the scene below. Just smelling this stench made the saliva in a morph's mouth drip down. Found it. His gaze became incredulous. The morgue, the place where dead bodies are kept, was right beneath him. On this side, the person guarding the corpses was still focused on listening to music. Kisaragi Yujin's coffin was still sitting quietly in a corner. This man ignored everything happening around him and continued wearing his headphones to study. A scent wafted over, making him feel extremely confused. Unable to stand it anymore, the man hurriedly stood up to search around. What is that strong smell? The next scene made him instantly freeze for a moment. Right before his eyes was a round hole surrounded by acid. What is that? At the same time, a morph was still hiding deep within the darkness, seeking an opportunity to attack. The face of this pitiful man was still full of disbelief. Decomposing acid, where did it come from? Realizing the situation was not right, he hurriedly turned away. Better just call security to be safe. Just as he was preparing to leave, a morph immediately appeared right in front of his eyes.
Before he could react, a decisive strike instantly appeared.
The pitiful man's body was covered in fresh red syrup. After some time searching, a morph discovered Kisaragi's corpse lying to one side. He hurriedly lifted the white cloth covering the body. Looking at her current form lying quietly there made him unable to hold back. Her stunning face also surprised a morph into thinking, truly a high-class noble indeed, still looking charismatic even in death. But he didn't care and reached out to touch her face. Normally, no one was allowed to touch a noble's body. His terrifying face gradually moved closer to hers. Strange. I've killed so many people, yet I don't feel the slightest bit of guilt. His claws continuously created bruises on Kisaragi. People often say the environment has a significant impact on a person. Could it be that after becoming an amorph, I have changed as well? This raised a question in his mind. Or has this cold-blooded monster always been my true nature deep inside? Not wasting any time, Amorph suddenly opened his mouth wide. Thinking won't solve anything anyway. His massive body quickly devoured Kisaragi. For now, let's just eat until full. To live is to continue killing. This is Amorph's fate and also a lifestyle I must get used to.
It seems he no longer felt guilty doing these things. After death, their bodies return and become one with Mother Earth, so becoming one with him could also be considered as belonging to Mother Earth. While enjoying this delicacy, Amorph accidentally chewed on something. He looked in surprise that the machine still stuck to his mouth. The object in his hand confused Amorph. What is this inside her heart? He didn't know what it was for. Thinking this, he clenched the object in his hand, probably because the heart wasn't functioning normally. A system notification suddenly appeared before his eyes, startling him. The expression on his face changed immediately. I suspected it. Yujin possessed divine power. Along with it was the content, activated predatory effect, successfully obtained superhuman organ genes. Obtain superhuman organs from human biological traits. Do you want to use superhuman organs? Yes or no? Amorph suddenly felt confused. Why superhuman organs? And so he moved closer, staring intently at the information. Amorph could use divine power without it, so having this trait was like having nothing. He quickly reached out to confirm the button on the screen. Well, don't be too pessimistic. He needed more traits to unlock the species anyway. Suddenly, strange tentacles appeared on Amorph's body. Looking at his current appearance made him feel a bit excited. Turns out Amorph looks like this. Pretty cool.
He didn't even forget to use Kisaragi's blood-stained hand to retrieve the password. Who knows if it might become useful? Just like predatory senses, then combining it with other traits. The other bodies being continuously pushed out intrigued him. Now that I'm done with this woman, should I cut down the guard next? For a while after that, Amorph continuously enjoyed the taste of the delicious meal. This guy is interesting but a bit hard to chew, probably due to too much muscle. Just then, Amorph accidentally made a noise on the ground. He hurriedly turned his head to assess the situation before him. Realizing something was wrong, sweat kept rolling down his face. It seemed the guards had just changed shifts, and so Amorph quickly monitored their actions. Does this ship not have enough energy equipment? That guy is handing his suit over to the one coming in for the next shift. Listening to this point, he sighed, looking at the corpse in front of him. Someone would inevitably come in here to check. Just one shift change and everything in this room would be discovered, especially since this is the space age. This made Amorph realize the situation was becoming increasingly serious. Everyone would certainly assume there was a monster on the ship. He didn't know what to do next. I'm still not strong enough to confront the whole ship yet. I have to find something to stall for time until I get stronger. Noticing something amiss caught Amorph's attention. The acid hole continuously corroding the floor surprised him. Smoke? That's right, this is the morgue. He continued to think of more interesting things. There must certainly be preservatives and chemicals to dispose of bodies here. Amorph's gaze gradually became more cunning. I just thought of a very interesting way to both escape this crisis and torment the crew. Amidst the vast night sky, Megacorp has no official capital, but they have a place considered the center of the community. An image of Earth appears. It is Earth, the headquarters and main base of the current Megacorp. The 5 corporations contributing to Megacorp's development are the kings of this place. The story continues, known for the image of the 5 great families, one of which is the Sujin family, residing in a place once called East Asia. This is an extremely developed place. The Sujin family started in a small country named Korea. As of now, all the land here has become the living space for the Sujin family. At the same time, there has been much progress here. They have small aircraft for tourism, electronic trains, and even an artificial sun for the internal ecosystem. And naturally, there are the Sujin family members, along with 10 million tools serving as their minions. The image appearing is a small house with an extremely large garden. Akira is still comfortably hoeing in the middle of his vast area. His face becomes extremely interested when he is free to do these things. While he is still comfortably immersing himself in nature, 2 bodyguards are waiting behind him. Realizing something, Akira then quickly stands up.
He turned his head to look at both of them. I've kept you boys waiting for a long time. Come over here. The bodyguards hurriedly turned to look back, and the butler immediately nodded to signal. The old man asked, "What is the matter?" The bodyguard quickly reported, "It is about your granddaughter, sir." He seemed unconcerned. "Which one?" Although surprised, the bodyguard still spoke. "Miss Kisaragi." Only then did the old man realize, the daughter of my third child? After remembering his granddaughter, he appeared happy again, as if nothing had happened. So, what next? After a moment of silence, the bodyguard continued to announce, "Her signal device has been destroyed."
Although a bit surprised, Akira tried to maintain a calm demeanor. "Impossible. I didn't force the girl to do any heavy work." The man continued to report everything he had investigated. "The last signal received was from planet C08. We send people to check. This is the territory of the space dogs." After a moment of silence, Akira gently placed his hand on the bodyguard's shoulder. Before he could react, the old man struck directly. The bodyguard immediately fell hard to the ground, and the old man continued walking toward the pitiful man. The bodyguard's body trembled in despair. Feeling it wasn't enough, Akira raised his cane and continuously beat his bodyguard. After beating him to his satisfaction, the old man immediately shouldered his cane and walked away. His face looked as if nothing had happened. "Clean this up." The subordinates nodded in agreement. "Understood." Akira didn't forget to ask, "I don't need tools that can't answer the questions I ask. You were the most important things to us. Do you understand?" A bodyguard hurriedly stood up. "Yes, sir, we understand."
The old man continued to take his hand out of his pocket to pull something out. "I spent 10 billion to raise Kisaragi, equivalent to building a new ship. I also had her undergo genetic upgrade surgery. I don't believe a few bandits could touch her." Thinking of this, he smiled a strange smile. "I wonder who dares to lay a hand on the beloved granddaughter of the Sujin family." Akira's face became thoughtful. "The commander of the Kisaragi ship is named Yusung Samuel, right?" The butler immediately nodded. "Yes, sir." Hearing this, the old man became thoughtful. "The Samuel family from Titan, the Azulton house, is quite close to them." Saying this, he looked extremely dangerous. But no, the head of the Azulton family is just a clown. It seems he wouldn't dare to oppose the Sujin house. After a moment of analysis, he turned back and asked, "My friend, what do you think?" The butler quickly bowed. "I think this was caused by TNC." His eyes became strangely sharp. "I think so too."
The story is retold once again. On the surface, TNC and the Azerton family are fighting for the power to possess Jupiter, but in reality, they are in cahoots with each other. Both sides quietly shook hands in cooperation, and the Azerton family's funding originally came from TNC. Thinking of this, Akira felt things were gradually becoming interesting. "I bet that old fox wants to step into the board of directors. You realized it too, didn't you?" The butler nodded in agreement. "Yes, Chamberlain, the chairman of TNC, is currently aiming for your CEO position, sir." The old man laughed loudly upon hearing that. "I knew it. I'm no stranger to that coward. He only knows how to tail me. He's scared to death. It's no joke." Just thinking about what happened made him extremely excited. Realizing something was wrong, Akira immediately stopped smiling. He hurriedly signaled, "There is a valid reason now. Take action. Inform everyone in the family as well." The butler nodded, understanding. "Understood." Akira didn't forget to add, "I have a spy hiding near C08. Contact him and tell him to handle it." Although very uncomfortable, the butler still had to nod. "Understood, sir." He thought helplessly, there is going to be a bloodbath soon. Akira's face became extremely terrifying as he threatened, "Drag Ichiwasen Samuel and everyone involved with him here for me. Do not leave anyone out." His eyes looked as if he wanted to devour everyone alive. "Anyone who dares to ruin my things must die." On this side, Isong was still standing still there, not daring to move. The scene before his eyes immediately caused him to tremble. He realized that many people had perished for unknown reasons. What on earth had happened here? Isong quickly listened to the news from his subordinates. "Smoke coming from inside? After you guys went in to check, you saw fire?" They nodded in agreement. "That's right, sir." The soldiers didn't forget to add, "We really wanted to see what happened, but according to policy, only doctors are allowed inside." Looking at the situation before him, Isong immediately sighed wearily, unable to understand. This room only contained corpses, so how could it catch fire? The doctors were still examining the corpses. Was this person a night shift worker? His face immediately changed. He hurriedly turned his head and asked, "Are there any other corpses?" Hearing that, the secretary hurriedly shook his head. "No, that's all there is. Is there a problem?" Sweat kept streaming down his face. How can this be? Isong stepped forward and asked in surprise, "What is it?" At the same time, the doctor's face had turned pale. "Commander, gather all members immediately. We are in big trouble." Inside the meeting, Isin became furious and shouted, "What? The bodies of the head of research and the guard are missing?" The more he thought about it, the more unbelievable it seemed. How is that possible? Dead people can't move on their own, can they? He even felt suspicious. "Are you sure about that?"
The doctor hurriedly stated what he had checked. I've checked back and forth several times but still can't find those 2 bodies. This made it incredibly hard for him to believe. Furthermore, everyone should think about the chemicals in the morgue. They could start a fire, but not one that big. At the same time, the head of Crisis Management Bureau also realized the important point. So that means everyone immediately became worried. Someone intentionally started the fire. This time, everyone immediately became extremely confused. But who could it be? Could there be an unidentified alien creature on the ship? Hearing this, a man turned his head and loudly reminded him, "Hey, that joke isn't funny. Stop spouting nonsense." The head of security turned back and spoke, "Hey now, supply management manager, I was just guessing. Why are you getting so worked up?" Meanwhile, the doctor also told everyone that the biggest problem right now was that the head of research's body was gone. He suddenly asked, "Aren't we scheduled to meet the bandits at planet C08? Isung immediately fell silent.
He ordered firmly, "Find that corpse for me at all costs, is that clear?" The doctor immediately spoke up to announce, "For now, let's just narrow it down to one suspect." Out of sheer anger, Yusung suddenly shouted, "Gamut!" His face now looked completely helpless. "This isn't just my problem alone. If you guys know how to worry about being retaliated against by the nobles, then you better cooperate properly." After he finished speaking, everyone present fell silent. He turned his head to look to one side. "Crisis Management Manager, have you finished contacting them?" The Crisis Management Manager heard this and nodded. "Yes, right after the meeting ended, I contacted them immediately." Hearing this, Yusung quickly held his head. "Damn it! Don't tell them what just happened here. Just say we will deliver the body exactly as promised." Suddenly, the Crisis Management Manager felt curious. Will that be all right? But perhaps this was the only thing Yusung could do. It would be a mess if they found it but couldn't do anything about it. They just needed to find it before meeting them. Saying this, he quickly placed his hand on the head of security's shoulder. "You understand what I mean, right?" His eyes seemed to carry hope. "You must find the mastermind." The head of security hurriedly spoke. "I have tried my best." Yusung suddenly spoke up. "Still not enough." His face now became extremely unpleasant. "But I authorize you to have full power over every member on the ship. You must find the culprit for me. The authority is all in your hands now."
On this side, Amorph was silently observing the group's conversation. "I will definitely find it. I'm counting on you." Amorph breathed a sigh of relief. It was a complete success. He recalled the action he had just taken, something that both concealed his identity and caused confusion among the enemies. It was fire, mixing chemicals in the morgue together to create fire. Who would suspect that this was the work of an alien creature? Everything gradually became easier. After mixing them to create a highly toxic compound, just adding a few drops of acid blood was enough.
Everything was within Amorph's calculations. Fortunately, everything went smoothly, and the bodies had been incinerated. Thinking of this, he quickly approached to observe the group still meeting. However, unexpectedly, someone mentioned the extraterrestrial creature, frightening everyone out of their wits, and even planned to meet with space criminals. This commander is truly crazy. Amorph quickly looked at the back of the Crisis Management Manager. It seems that the idea was proposed by the Crisis Management Manager earlier. I must verify this later. Perhaps he is in league with those bandits. Thinking of this, Amorph silently calculated the next step in the plan. Those bandits are multi-species, so I will definitely collect dozens of genes. However, once I leave, it will be hard to get more from this research ship. I'll deal with that when I meet those bandits. Noticing something amiss that caught Amorph's attention. What is this? The figure of a fat man walking sadly ahead. This is the Supply Management Manager who insisted on denying my presence earlier. He didn't have a hand in this affair, so why does he look so gloomy?
While Amorph was still wondering, the Supply Management Manager suddenly turned his head to check his surroundings. He quickly reached out to unlock the mysterious warehouse door. Seeing him leave the area drew Amorph's attention to the ship's hold. He seemed to feel that this man was extremely mysterious. This guy is in charge of that place. Why would he need to sneak in? Why is he so wary of his surroundings? Amorph quickly observed the interior space more carefully. No matter how you look at it, it seems very suspicious. Suddenly, Amorph noticed a cargo container on one side. What is inside that container? His trail ended right here. Amorph continued to scan other parts of the interior space. It required both an ID card and fingerprints. The security level of this container was higher than the others. Its walls were too thick. Even using super senses, he couldn't see through it. This made Amorph even more certain. There must be something very important inside. How fascinating. Thoughts kept racing through his mind. I originally intended to stalk the medical team, but never mind. Let's change direction. He will be the next target. Meanwhile, the Supply Management Manager slammed his wine glass down on the table. That's how it should be. The man next to him reminded him, "Brother, don't drink anymore." He spoke sadly. "Just this last glass." The young man suddenly felt confused. "What's wrong with you today?"
He did not reply, simply continuing to lift the wine glass to his mouth. Life had been in such turmoil lately. It seemed the Supply Management Manager had committed some sinful act in the past. If I had known, I wouldn't have listened to that black market merchant. Hearing it was an ancient remnant that could be sold for a high price, he couldn't think straight anymore. And so, he began doing those wicked deeds. I had already scheduled the delivery date, then secretly brought it onto the ship.
Things were not as simple as he thought. Right at that unlucky moment, an egg hatched. If I had just closed the cargo container door tighter back then, everything would have been fine. This made him sigh in utter helplessness, unable to tell anyone. If the commander finds out about this, he'll surely fly into a rage and kill me. The supply management manager immediately drank another bottle of wine. Alcohol was truly harmful to the body. Seeing this situation made the shop owner extremely uncomfortable. "We have to close now." He suddenly raised his hand to stop him. "Just one more glass." He seemed desperate. "I'll down this glass and then leave." Although very annoyed, the bartender could only nod. "All right." Some time later, the supply management manager staggered forward.
He could no longer see the way back clearly, stumbling along and complaining, "Damn it, how did it come to this?" A strange smile appeared on his face. Alcohol really does harm the body. Realizing something was wrong, the supply management manager immediately became serious. He hurriedly turned his head and shouted, "Who's there?" But perhaps he was too paranoid. There was nothing behind him at that moment. However, the supply management manager could not shake off the anxiety in his heart. With no other choice, he immediately turned around and walked away. Damn it, screw this. Following that, strange sounds kept ringing out, causing the supply management manager to become terrified. He hurriedly turned his head back, trying to observe if anything strange was happening. At the same time, the familiar silhouette of Amorph appeared from behind. Realizing this dangerous situation made him unable to keep his composure. Unable to endure another moment, the supply management manager hurriedly ran away. What the hell is going on? Tears on his face kept flowing down. "I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead." His fat hands continuously pressed the elevator door button. "Open up, hurry!" As soon as the door opened, the supply management manager hurriedly rushed inside, but perhaps running too fast caused him to accidentally fall face down on the ground. His hand immediately began to tremble, reaching forward. "Where's the phone? I have to call." Terrifying sounds kept ringing out, startling the supply management manager. He hurriedly turned his head back with a face full of tears.
The door was continuously open to his astonishment. Amorph's terrifying form finally appeared in this place, making him so stupefied that he could not do anything. Moving closer to his still frightened face, not wasting any time, Amorph opened his mouth wide towards the supply manager. "Thanks for the meal." A terrifying scene occurred. What had to come, came. Looking at the items inside the supply manager's bag, Amorph sighed. This guy's daily habits were too simple. Eliminating him wasn't hard either. He continued searching the space to see if there was anything unusual. All day long, he just got drunk at the bar, yet was paid quite high salary. Thinking of this, Amorph sighed and thought. The commander would be very grateful to him. Thanks to him, he saved both money and time. Looking at the current space before his eyes, Amorph sighed contemplatively. Surely this guy never knew what cleaning was. It was filthy. After a while of searching, Amorph sighed somewhat helplessly. Where is his ID card? Noticing a little beauty with a voluptuous figure on the side caught his attention. It's just a pity that now he is just a monster. This girl looked hot, but perhaps since he turned into this, he didn't feel anything anymore. While holding a document folder searching, suddenly a card appeared.
In his hand, Amorph was holding the hand of the supply management manager, happily thinking, "Here it is, I have everything I need." Remembering something, he immediately glanced at the guy's corpse. "Oh right, I have to clean up before leaving." After tasting the flavor, Amorph felt a bit disappointed. This guy wasn't delicious at all. His body reeked of alcohol. Sometime later, Amorph continued towards another spatial door. He was prepared, holding the ID card out in front. If the door required a fingerprint, Amorph would lift the supply management manager's hand to scan it.
The massive door slowly opened, accompanied by mist, and so Amorph walked inside the experimental space, searching continuously, wondering what might be in here. A series of specimens before his eyes made him incredibly incredulous. Freezers. It turned out he must be a smuggler. Realizing something was wrong, Amorph was startled. Only then did he look at the boxes on one side. Amorph bags? Really? Finding it too hard to believe, he hurriedly examined the outside of the eggshells. There was already an empty egg inside. Unable to hide his curiosity, he hurriedly picked up the shell to observe. This was his egg. Realizing what this object was surprised him a little, so he planned to smuggle him as well? Suddenly, Amorph recalled what he knew. In the game, Amorph's starting point wasn't on a spaceship like this, but at an unidentified archaeological site. Returning to reality, Amorph continued to carefully observe the space, unsure of what had happened, but it seemed the original owner of this body had tried to leave the cargo container after it opened, then died of malnutrition. Afterwards, his soul had entered this body. Thinking of this, he sighed and put the shell down on the ground. No wonder those cockroaches tasted so good. That was due to the body's survival instinct. Amorph suddenly knelt down and bound to a shell once. The emotions in his heart were too chaotic. He would mourn it in silence. Realizing time was running short, he hurriedly stood up and turned away. That was enough mourning. It was time to go back to being an Amorph, and so he turned around and reached out to grab the remaining eggs. A second later, he stuffed them all into his mouth and chewed voraciously. Amorph gave himself no time to rest, eating and swallowing continuously. A hatched morph would devour all other eggs, but unfortunately he received no notification after eating. Even so, he didn't care. It didn't matter. He continued to look at the space in front of him. There were still plenty of things to eat. The period that followed was a morph's hunting time.
Realizing there had been a change made him rejoice. Great. The lines of information were clearly recorded on it. Species, space-aggressive xenomorph, MDHK. State, juvenile. Survival goal, first evolution successful. Existing traits, super senses, wings, chitin shell, paralysis poison, reinforced exoskeleton, acid blood, superhuman organs, reinforced leg strength, mimicry of unknown species. Currently, you can focus on 2 types, physical enhancement, 8 of 10, superhuman strength enhancement, 2 of 3. A morph quickly realized that he only needed 2 more traits to complete the physical enhancement type. Thinking of this, a morph immediately glanced forward. To be honest, he was quite disappointed after devouring that woman Kisagari. The divine power was nowhere to be seen. Only this useless superhuman organs appeared.
A morph's figure leaped from one side to the other. That supply management manager had given him a special gift indeed, a powerful trait usually only available in the later stages of the game. Thinking about this made him feel extremely excited. Using it to deal with the crew would be perfect, and one could say his plan was now much more likely to succeed. His face immediately became serious and calculating. This ship was about to encounter the space dogs soon, and not knowing their strength, he had to become as strong as possible. With this thought, a morph became even more determined. My dear Genes, I am coming for you. No matter how much they scream, no one will hear them. The desperate howls of the members on this research ship will be buried in the deep abyss. The scene shifts to the runway area on the Megacorp research ship, a vast space. A man walked over and called out, "Scott, it's time for dinner, let's go." Hearing this, he nodded and signaled, "Let me finish this first." This surprised his colleague greatly. "How much longer do you intend to work?" He didn't pay much attention to this, working until it was late.
Seeing Scott working so hard made his colleague sigh, "Damn it." The scene shifts to the canteen, where endless discussions are taking place. "I still don't get it." "Get what?" "The recent maintenance order." Scott, still bewildered, asked, "We haven't been in any battles anyway, so why are they ordering us to check the entire ship?" Cameron suddenly called out, "Hey, Scott!" His face turned slightly serious as he reminded him, "Can you wait until we finish this meal to discuss work?" Clearly, Fincher still didn't care. "But think about it. Don't you find it strange, Fincher?" He continued to reveal what he had investigated. "I heard rumors that they are about to catch a mechanical gremlin." He immediately became serious. "Hey, if we really encounter it, there's no way we'll survive." At this moment, Scott suddenly spoke up. "Listen, there is currently a gremlin on this ship." Cameron heard this and was in disbelief. "What?" His face became extremely serious as he continued. "Have you smelled a foul stench lately? That's the smell of a mechanical gremlin." After saying that, he continued, "The kitchen staff also said that since last week, people have been going missing every now and then." Cameron continued eating as if nothing happened. "That's all nonsense." Just then, the guy next to them leaned in and whispered, "I also heard a bit about this. I heard the supply management manager is nowhere to be found, and the cargo hold manager has been promoted to temporary manager." This news made him incredulous. "Really?" Scott beside him continued, "See, Fincher, I wasn't wrong."
His face suddenly became strangely serious. All right, let's assume people are missing. Why haven't the higher-ups mentioned anything about this?" Glasses turned his head and spoke, "Because if they speak out, it will cause chaos, so they are hiding it." Scott also nodded and continued, "I told you already, it's all caused by the mechanical gremlin. I bet it is the mechanical gremlin." Cameron still didn't care, holding his food tray and standing up. "So what does that have to do with warship maintenance?" Glasses shook his head and continued, "Who knows? I only heard the part about many people disappearing." Scott smiled awkwardly. Maybe they are just taking their anger out on others? Too angry, he quickly took his food tray and walked away. There, truly a bird brain. Time shifted towards the night at the vast aircraft. Seeing his teammates still diligently making repairs, Cameron was surprised. "Scott, do you want to eat anything?" He immediately shook his head. "No need." Remembering something, Scott hurriedly asked, "If you can, bring me that bottle of mixed liquor." Looking at the pile of machinery to be processed right before his eyes made him extremely tired. "Damn it, I don't know if I can finish this tonight." Suddenly, his face became strangely serious. Cameron's voice rang out. "Scott, can you come out here for a bit?" He turned his head in surprise. "Cameron?" Then he continued repairing as if nothing had happened. "I'm busy." The other kept calling out, "Come out, it won't take long." The calls continued to ring out. "Scott." Seeing himself being constantly disturbed made Scott furious. "Come on." With no other choice, he had to go outside. "If you come out and talk nonsense, I'll punch you." Seeing no one in front of him made him extremely confused. He hurriedly turned his head, looking around. "Where are you?" Cameron's voice rang out from inside the dark room ahead. "I'm over here, come here, hurry up." He asked in surprise, "Maintenance room?" After seeing him approaching, Cameron continued calling out, "Scott, over here." His actions made him extremely confused.
What are you doing crawling into a place as dark as a tomb like this? He hurriedly explained, I'm looking for something. The voice kept ringing out, come in here and give me a hand, quickly. Scott, without thinking much, proceeded inside. He walked while thinking depressingly, so annoying. A scent rushed into his nose, making him instinctively cover it with his hand. What is this smell? It's like the smell of metal mixed with something. Although very angry, he still went inside. Where the hell is that guy? Cameron's voice rang out, I'm here. Unfortunately, because the space was dark, Scott didn't pay attention and accidentally stepped on an object, causing him to fall flat on the ground. Now Scott painfully held his head. Only then did he realize something was wrong with the situation. Wait, something isn't right. Scott looked towards the flashlight on one side. I have a light, yet I still can't see anything here. What is Cameron doing in such a dark place? Thoughts kept popping up in his head. Heard that the supply management manager is nowhere to be found? Then the cargo hold manager was promoted to temporary chief. Since last week, people keep going missing at the slightest drop of a hat. These words continuously appearing in his head made Scott extremely terrified. I told you, it's all caused by that mechanical gremlin. Seeing no one calling out anymore made Scott worried. Cameron! Strange sounds kept ringing out, and he called out in fear. Cameron! A morph's hand was placed on his head, terrifying him. It moved close to his face and spoke, Welcome.
Amidst the dark space, Scott's pitiful screams rang out continuously. He didn't forget to say to himself, this mimicry trait is quite useful. At the same time, Cameron had brought the items and called out, Scott, I brought the alcohol for you. Looking at the empty space before his eyes, he was a bit surprised. Where is he?
Cameron bent down to look for the familiar figure of his teammate. That guy never left his post before finishing his work, did he? Suddenly, Scott's voice rang out, catching his attention. I'm in the maintenance room. This made him extremely suspicious. Why did you go in there? The voice continued to reply, just looking for some stuff. Cameron suddenly felt puzzled. But it's too dark in there. How can you find anything? Scott's voice quickly echoed from inside. Come in here and help me move some stuff. Although a bit surprised, he still walked inside. All right. The dark space before his eyes confused him greatly. Why are you... Noticing a flashlight lying on the ground, Cameron quickly picked it up. What is this? Suddenly, drops of bright red syrup ceaselessly dripped onto his body. This confused Cameron greatly, and he hurriedly stood up and asked, What is it? His blood-red hand made him startle. Syrup? Only then did Cameron realize something was wrong with the situation. What's going on? Scott's terrifying face appeared right before his eyes. At the same time, Omorph, holding Scott's head, smiled and announced, I'm right here. Screams echoed. It seemed Cameron could not escape this pitiful fate. While enjoying the delicious meal, Omorph thought with amusement, It seems I have quite a knack for luring others. He seemed very satisfied with the skill he currently possessed. This mimicry skill is really convenient. Meanwhile, the story began to recount that among the creatures the chief manager desperately wanted to smuggle, there was a larva named Redworm. The scene shifted to a vast desert. It was a giant worm that only lived on planets with desert-like environments and had the ability to mimic the sounds of other living beings.
Perhaps that is precisely the reason it can hunt. Everyone says that in harsh conditions, it will evolve to hunt prey more easily. Thinking of this, Amorph looked back at his body parts. Obtaining the gene of the redworm larva was truly awesome, but it was a bit of a pity that it wasn't as effective as the original trait. Thinking of this, Amorph continued to open his mouth wide to enjoy the meal. Since he could only mimic the voice of the living creature he had most recently eaten, but all things considered, it was still useful. Remembering something, he turned his head to look in another direction. Tomorrow, I have to go to the kitchen area to hunt humans.
And so Amorph felt quite hesitant. What was his name again? Pierre? It seems this guy isn't very close to Fincher, but it doesn't matter. Today's meal made Amorph feel extremely satisfied. Deal sealed. His dinner tomorrow will be Pierre. His hands quickly unscrewed the screws on the ventilation duct, wondering how that spherical amoeba was doing. He quickly crawled out of the ventilation duct, silently pondering. He couldn't keep calling it spherical amoeba forever. Well, let's change it to H26. And so Amorph quickly walked forward, thinking he would visit it briefly, then return to the nest. Suddenly, a familiar sound rang out, catching Amorph's attention. Hello? His face showed a mix of surprise and confusion as he thought. It turns out superhuman organs also have this utility, using wavelengths to communicate with a living creature. This made him ponder deeply, wondering if he should say hello back. Simultaneously, Amorph made a slight movement as if signaling a greeting. The amoeba quickly sent back messages in response. Hello, today I am hungry again. Food. A bit surprised, Amorph pondered deeply. Was there still something about this psionium species that he didn't know?
Even so, he politely replied, Sorry, it's a bit difficult today. She didn't seem to understand what difficult meant. He seriously explained further, It means I can't give it to you. Seeing Ameep's disappointment, Amorph was very hesitant about what to do.
He understood why she was disappointed, but that route was too dangerous right now. He also knew he shouldn't take risks. Ever since the head of research disappeared, they had increased security to the highest level, and the vents in the research area were also blocked. Thinking of this, Amorph immediately sighed. That was why he couldn't bring her any calorie bars. Now he could only exchange a few words. He turned back and signaled, "I have to go." Ameep was still very obedient. "Goodbye." Before leaving, Amorph didn't forget to turn back and think, "Oh well, good luck." As he walked away, he silently thought, if I evolved to adolescent, I could help, but the conditions to ascend are not easy at all. It seemed very far off for Amorph. To evolve, the player must kill 10 characters from 2 intelligent species, then steal their genes. Thinking about this gave Amorph a massive headache. There were only humans on this ship, so evolving was impossible. There were also the bandits, but he didn't know what they were like. Suddenly, the sound of conversations made Amorph turn his head to pay attention. He noticed the crisis management manager was still communicating with someone, reporting nearby. This made Amorph observe and think in surprise. It's the crisis management manager. Who was he talking to on the phone? He walked and talked incessantly. Yes, everything is going according to plan. Yes, yes. The news from the other end of the line made him extremely surprised. What? Orders from the family?
Although there were many things he didn't understand, he still nodded in agreement. "It's nothing, sir. How could I dare to question it?" Saying this, he sighed and walked forward. "Well, that's fine too. Kasaragi has been eliminated. The ship will arrive at C08 as planned." The voice of the crisis management manager rang out continuously. Commander Yusung's orders have all been recorded. This news made Amorph unable to believe its ears. What? Lamb continued to reach out and unlock the large door. "Yes, everything is fine. It is all for the family. No, for the wish of Mr. Jung Gun-jin." He silently watched the man's every move. "Leave the risk to me. Understood. Yes." Seeing this situation, Amorph silently thought in its head, "Looks like I just discovered something here. A snitch. I remember he was the one who persuaded the commander to issue that order." This made him a bit incredulous, but it seemed this guy was plotting something even more than that. Must observe more closely. Let's see if this benefits me. At the same time, in another place, Yusung Samuel clearly showed an angry expression and shouted, "Head of security, what the hell are you doing?" The head of security hurriedly stood up and replied, I'm sorry, sir." He stood up abruptly again and cursed. "No more sorries or whatever here. 2 days left until we have to contact those bandits again. But the problem remains. Nothing is resolved yet."
Unable to argue further, the head of security could only explain, "We have already increased the number of cameras and guards." However, before he could finish his sentence, Yasung Samuel glared and interrupted. "Damn it, this search team." He asked annoyedly, "How many people have gone missing on the ship in total?" Another person replied, "Including the supply management manager recently. The total is 8, sir." At the same time, above the ventilation duct, Amorph was silently listening to the entire situation below. "I won't mention the first death, but 7 more people have gone missing since then, and you still haven't caught the culprit. Are you people accomplices?" No, sir, of course not." Seeing the group blaming each other, he chuckled and thought, "Sorry about that, but the culprit is sitting right here." After arguing back and forth for a while, finally Yasung Samuel could only sit down helplessly and sigh. "Damn it." Another person spoke up. "I think the head of security is telling the truth." Hearing this, his face turned red with anger as he shouted, "What?" The other person continued, "I have checked every corner, and the security team has done their best."
Yusong Samuel gritted his teeth and reproached, "You haven't even caught the culprit yet, and you're still covering for them?" Suddenly, the voice of the crisis management manager became even more serious and certain. "My point is exactly that," he exclaimed. "If the culprit were a human, I don't believe he could have remained hidden until now." Every word he continued to say gave Amorph a foreboding feeling. Rumor has it that there is a mechanical gremlin living on the ship, but it is also very likely caused by some unidentified creature. He worriedly thought to himself, why did the conversation veer off course so quickly? The brown-haired man sitting next to him felt it was unreasonable and interrupted. "Listen here, crisis management manager. The AI technology on this ship was once used in combat," he continued. "If there were any creature lurking on the spaceship, we should have known about it long ago." The crisis management manager replied, "I used to be a veteran, so I know the capabilities of AI technology very well, but surely everyone knows about the supply management manager shipment. The freezers there are all empty." Saying this, his face darkened as he asked, "So where have those creatures gone?" Around a meeting room, everyone fell into a state of anxiety, sweating profusely, and Amorph was no exception. "Oh no, the thing I feared most has finally come." After a while, Yusong Samuel finally spoke up. "Fine. Let's assume there is a space creature wreaking havoc on this ship, but where is it, and why hasn't it been detected yet?"
Without a moment of hesitation, the crisis management manager stood up abruptly, pointing upwards and replied, "There is one place we haven't been able to check thoroughly yet." Everyone simultaneously cast their gaze towards the ventilation duct on the ceiling and asked back, "The vent?"
He continued, "This vent leads to every corner of the ship, and the size is just enough for a creature about 1 meter tall to crawl inside." Some others responded, 1 meter? That's a bit small. How could it kill people? A mechanical gremlin is only about 80 centimeters tall, yet it can destroy the entire ship. Hearing this, a morph became increasingly furious, its blood boiling as it thought to itself, "That guy is Arnold, right? I should have eliminated him sooner to be safe."
Back below, someone said, "If that's the case, we're in big trouble. If it's the culprit that ate the head of Research's corpse, we're done for." Arnold replied, "We can capture it alive and hand it over to the noble." He added that once they know it's the one who ate Kisaragi, they will naturally have measures to deal with it. The old man with glasses asked, "What about the bandits?" He answered, "If we can't recover the body, we have no choice but to fight. To win a battle, internal stability is a must, so if we want to ensure everyone's safety, we have to deal with that monster first." Thinking for a moment, U.S. Sung Samuel asked, "How many soldiers are needed?" Arnold replied, "I will take 6 men from Unit 8 to check the ventilation ducts immediately." Just like that, the group decided on this plan. "Approved. Good luck. Remember to bring back positive results for me." "Thank you, sir." At this moment, a morph was approaching a vent cover, unscrewing it while thinking to himself, "I have persevered for too long. This day was bound to come eventually." He was certain that Arnold would install an additional security system in the vents, which meant there was no way out for him anymore. His body nimbly jumped straight down into the underground pipes below. Leaving the nest meant there was nowhere else to go. The corridors were full of security cameras. The vents were out of the question. It was time to make a crucial decision. The more and more thought, the more his head hurt. Should he run or stay and fight to the end? Just as he thought of this, his eyes suddenly shut tight, recalling the scene from before.
Arnold stated that if the culprit were human, he didn't believe they could have hidden until now. This ventilation duct leads everywhere on the ship, and the size is just enough for a creature about 1 meter tall to crawl in. We can capture it alive and hand it over to the nobles. Once they know it's the one that ate Kisaragi, they'll naturally have measures to deal with it. Suddenly, Amorph's eyes snapped open, glowing a bright red. He thought angrily to himself, "Capture this Amorph alive? They must think I'm just some wild beast, huh?" A puff of white smoke escaped from his mouth. Even if his limbs are torn apart, this head can still crush the enemy's throat. That is what an Amorph is. At this thought, Amorph let out a loud, determined roar. He would fight. In space, within the treacherous terrain of a ship's ventilation duct, he would show them that trying to catch an Amorph with just a few meager troops was the most foolish thing in the world. He had made his decision. "I will show you everything I have and what space hell is like." Amorph slowly placed his hand down on the floor.
As soon as it was completed, all the veins emerged and shot out in all directions. He thought to himself, "Connect." Amorph felt his body beginning to make more contact. His auxiliary organs were burrowing deep into the ship and starting to analyze. He could perceive the movements of everything. They would transmit information about the structure of this entire research ship, as well as the location and every move of the enemies to his brain. Just like that, after only a moment, the entire ship was covered. If one were to compare the spaceship to a creature drifting in this vast universe, Amorph was merely a parasite in the brain of some inorganic organism, knowing the fate of the ship just as well as its owner did. Commander Iasung and the crew members were gathering in the cockpit. Arnold was there too. It seemed they intended to take action here.
Not only that, there were many soldiers equipped with weapons moving about. He could also sense the footsteps of the armed troops. Indeed, they had split their forces and were closing in from 2 different directions. Amorph carefully calculated his every step. The main foundation for the plan was already in place, but he needed to calculate in more detail based on the enemy's behavior and weaponry. Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth curled up in a smile. It was time to welcome his guests. Inside the surveillance room, every action was being recorded. A1 in position. Team A, commence operation. A man looking at the screen continued. B1 reporting, present at the control room. B1 in position. Team B, commence operation. Yusong Samuel was also monitoring everything. B1, check the transmission line. It's unstable. B1 copied. If you detect anything suspicious, remember to report it immediately. Arnold crossed his arms over his chest, thinking to himself that surely some monster had killed Kisaragi, and this was his responsibility. His eyebrows furrowed in annoyance. The plan remained unchanged, but he had to eliminate as many variables as possible. Before meeting Si-Hyun Sujin, he absolutely must not allow any mistakes to slip through. Thinking of this, he exclaimed with great anticipation, "That monster! Today is your doomsday!" Suddenly, a notification sound rang out. A1 reporting, there is a turn ahead. We are moving to the right. B1 reporting, we have also reached a turn, currently moving to the right.
An announcement continued. B3 reporting, our transmission line is not very stable. We will follow immediately after fixing it. The observer replied, Roger, remember to follow close once done. Hearing this, Arnold instructed, the path there is quite complex. Tell everyone to be careful. The communicator relayed the message. Announcement from the control room. No need to rush. Search every corner thoroughly. Suddenly, noticing something amiss, Arnold exclaimed. He spoke up. B3's camera isn't moving. Check it. The communicator replied. Yes, sir.
He spoke into the mic. B3, check the camera. Receiving no answer, he urged again. Announcement from the control room. Team B3 respond immediately. Check the camera. After a moment of waiting, finally, the screen displayed along with a response. Everything is stable. The communicator continued. B2, stop and wait for Team B3 to catch up. The other side replied. B2 copies. Just like that, on the large screen, Team B2 was turning back.
The distance between the two teams narrowed further and further. In the blink of an eye, the two dots displaying B2 and B3 touched each other closely. Suddenly, a scream rang out, making everyone pale with fear. The communicator hurriedly asked, B2, what happened? The group panicked and replied, it. But before the soldiers could finish their sentence, the connection was lost. Hearing this, the communicator anxiously signaled, B3 copy, we have lost contact with Team B2, report. The screen only displayed a chaotic pitch black. B2 was ambushed by the monster. We can't see anything on the screen. The detailed report rang out. The faces of the others turned visibly pale. The other side reported back. It appeared too suddenly. We didn't see anything either. The head of security and the old man with glasses ran over and asked in unison, hey, what's the situation? Standing on another side, Arnold wasn't doing much better. Crisis management manager, what are you still standing there for? He thought fearfully. Is it all over? An indescribable unease rose in his heart. A medium-equipped soldier had failed without even fighting, so even a seasoned assassin might not be able to stand against it.
Arnold's hand clenched into a fist. He had been sorely mistaken to think it was just some wild creature. This monster was far faster and more dangerous than he had imagined. After thinking for a moment, he pointed his hand and ordered, guards, notify everyone to be ready to open fire if the situation gets complicated. Arnold continued. B3 and B1 switched to searching for Team B2 together. The messenger quickly replied, copy that, notification from the control room. He added, B3, stop searching for Team B2, return to Team B1's position. A voice came back from the other side, copy that. A series of signals rang out. B1, after regrouping with B3, would begin searching for Team B2. B1 copies. Arnold gritted his teeth, thinking to himself, at this rate, everyone is going to be done for. On the screen, the position of Team B3 was gradually approaching Team B1. Suddenly, a notification came through, making Arnold startle. B1 reporting, we just heard something. The control room responded, what did you hear? Team B1 replied, I'm not entirely sure, but someone is coming. This is an intersection, so it's hard to determine. Upon receiving this answer, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. B1 reporting, that sound belongs to B3. I can hear their voices. The messenger also let out a sigh of relief. Notification from the control room. B1, if you have met up with B3, report back. But after waiting for a while without any response, he softly called out, B1? Suddenly, the screen display returned, along with a hurried voice. B3 has fallen to the enemy! Arnold exclaimed in shock. What? Everyone could still clearly hear the footsteps of armed soldiers walking steadily.
Unable to wait any longer, he hurriedly snatched the headset from the communicator and spoke, Captain here, explain the situation more clearly. From the other side came the reply, everything happened too fast, I couldn't see anything. Hearing that, he went mad with rage, veins bulging on his face as he shouted, damn it. Arnold gradually fell into a state of losing control and asked again, it happened right before your eyes, and you're saying you didn't see it? From the other side came a frantic cry, I'm sorry. At this point in the conversation, he grabbed the headset and threw it hard onto the floor, cursing, bastard.
His whole body collapsed to the ground, his face darkening as he thought to himself, impossible. How could he be standing right there and not know anything? Sweat poured down Arnold's face. Furthermore, the cameras of B1 and B3 were also not visible, as if they were trying not to let the monster's image enter the frame. While still thinking, he suddenly realized something was wrong here and exclaimed, wait a minute. Immediately, he calmed down and picked up the headset lying on the ground. Then Arnold began to put it on with a serious expression. He spoke softly. B1, Captain here. Tell me your name and rank. From the other side, there was a wrestling response. Seeing no answer from the other side, he continued to ask, B1, I say it again. Tell me your name and rank immediately. After a few seconds of silence, finally, a chilling laugh came through. I've been discovered. Above on the main screen, the scene was slowly changing to a different direction. Then suddenly, a giant hand with sharp claws struck from nowhere, shattering the camera lens. Witnessing this scene, the head of security was so terrified that he couldn't close his mouth.
The whole group tumbled to the ground, staring at the screen that had lost connection. Arnold sat there in a daze, ignoring the voices echoing inside his headset. Amorph here, what happened? His state slowly shifted to rage, his pupils dilating wildly. Amorph here, please answer immediately. Meanwhile, over at Amorph's location, the entire Team B had been completely dealt with by him. So that was the end of Team B. Everywhere he stepped was splattered with red syrup. He thought to himself, after communicating with H26 via wavelengths, he had come up with a plan to use those very wavelengths to block their transmission signals. Due to the wavelengths emitted by Amorph, B3's walkie-talkie was jammed. Having to fix the device, B3 lagged behind, and then he neutralized him with neurotoxin, a new trait he had just combined.
Without hesitation, Amorph began to devour and tear apart the entire group. He hadn't been full for days, so now he had to eat to his heart's content. After eating his fill, he continued to shift focus to another target. Next up was Team A. Having said that, he used his senses to observe every corner of the ship. Let's see. After searching for a while, Amorph finally detected them. Found them. These guys are pretty alert.
However, he wasn't worried at all and started moving. Team B didn't know anything about him yet, but this group already knew Amorph could mimic voices. He hid behind a turn, thinking to himself, should I use that trick to deal with them this time? To be cautious, he calculated further. There was a turn, and judging by Team A's movement speed, they would arrive here soon. Amorph's eyes were filled with anticipation as he wondered, they say knowledge is power, but is that really true? He exclaimed. Sometimes knowing too much makes it easier to die. Switching scenes to Team A, this time everyone was much more careful, with flashlights turned on. Upon reaching a turn, one of them spoke up. A1 reporting, we have reached the turn, currently moving to the right. A response came from the other side. Control room hears you, copy that. Arnold reminded the group of soldiers. Captain here, I will make it clear once again. This creature can mimic human voices. Open fire immediately upon hearing anyone's voice. Just as he finished speaking, suddenly a loud shout rang out. Is anyone there? Save me. A soldier asserted. It's the enemy. Open fire. Immediately, the entire group fired simultaneously straight ahead, creating an explosion. Gunshots rang out continuously, and faintly visible afterwards was the silhouette of Amorph fleeing into another passage.
Not stopping there, someone in Team A1 ordered, continue firing. A voice resonated from the control room. Notice from the control room, check the enemy status. They responded, A1 reporting, roger. While everyone was distracted, Amorph had circled around to their backs, silently waiting. The others held their positions, covering A1. Roger. Sensing something was wrong, a soldier's face turned pale, sweat pouring down profusely. Before he could understand what was happening, a loud, miserable scream echoed back, startling the others. A3, what's wrong? They exclaimed in fear. Behind! The enemy is behind us! Hearing that, the control room ordered, A1, A2, open fire immediately. They replied, wait, we can't, the group said anxiously. That creature has taken A3 hostage and is hiding behind him. If we shoot, A3 will get hurt too. Arnold urged. Damn it, just shoot for me, he shouted loudly. A1, open fire immediately. This is an order. With no other choice, A1 had to comply. A1 roger, open fire. Having said that, a barrage of bullets was fired straight toward where Amorph was standing. While fleeing, he was unfortunately hit by a few bullets. Drops of his blood flew everywhere. Then, upon falling onto the ship, they turned into a type of corrosive acid. A2 reported, casualties confirmed. I repeat, casualties confirmed. Do not retreat, continue pursuing that creature. Just then, suddenly, A3's lying body began to tremble. The others ran over to reassure him. Damn it, don't you leave me. A3 is starting to convulse. Inject the medicine. Finishing the sentence, someone pressed the control panel. Injecting medicine.
Once injected with the drug, A3 no longer showed any movement. A person reported, A1 reporting, administer the drug to A3. We will resume the mission immediately. The control room acknowledged. Proceed. While they were talking, someone nearby noticed something. That damn monster, I have to crush its limbs to feel satisfied.
It turned out he had discovered traces of Amorph's blood on the ground. It was also injured. The expressions on all their faces turned fearful. Could it be that it had acid blood? They did not know what kind of monster that thing was anymore. Sensing danger, the two of them gradually became more cautious. One person spoke up. It's too narrow in here. The person next to him replied, so what should we do? The other answered, let's keep going. While walking, A1 whispered, A1 reporting, we need permission to administer enhancement drugs. Hearing that, Arnold replied without hesitation, Captain here, permission granted. Just after being injected with the drug, A1 began to change, his pupils flashing a brilliant yellow. Immediately after, unable to endure it, he collapsed to his knees on the ground. Suddenly, his hand clenched tight, creating a dent in the floor. The two of them continued moving with a confident state, saying, we must definitely kill that damn monster, just wait and see. Walking a bit further, one of them suddenly stopped to observe. It turned out he discovered a large hole accompanied by black smoke in front of him. Both gently approached, bowing their heads to look down and examine it once. One reported back. A1 reporting, there is a large hole in the ventilation duct. There are no signs of the monster around anymore. He offered a speculation. It seems it crawled down to the corridor. The control room acknowledged. Copy that. While the group was paying no attention, Amorph was already waiting behind their backs. The surveillance room reminded, we will check the corridor. Report your exact location. A1 replied, we are near research area C06. Just as he finished speaking, Amorph suddenly jumped straight down below. Hearing a strange noise, one man was startled and panicked, turning his head to look back. Quick as lightning, one man immediately fired straight at the approaching Amorph. This time, even though he was hit by bullets, he showed no pain or intention to run away at all. Before the soldier could understand what was happening, a hand grabbed his head. Amorph just swung hard like that, making him unable to resist.
The soldier's entire body flew backward helplessly. Witnessing this scene, the remaining one was so terrified he was struck dumb. Very quickly, he regained his composure and frantically fired towards Amorph, disregarding his teammate. Seizing that opportunity, Amorph intended to launch a surprise sneak attack. Yet the soldier still reacted in time, forcefully knocking the attack backward. He clenched his fist tight, aiming for Amorph's head. The soldier's eyes flashed with a blood-red light as he shouted loudly, "Die!" Fortunately, as the fist was about to land, Amorph managed to dodge to the side in time. Without hesitation, he swiftly dashed away towards the rear.
Seeing this, the soldier still didn't give up, once again grabbing his weapon to fire. But it was still too late. A1 screamed in anger in a fit of helpless madness. Switching scenes to Amorph's side, and he was climbing through the pipes. Only when he felt safe did he stop and exclaim, "That guy is stronger than I thought." The more he thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. Usually, even with enhancement drugs, no one would be to this extent. He had to adjust the plan. Amorph scratched his head wearily. He couldn't trick A1 anymore, so he had to switch to another method. After thinking for a while, he finally came up with an idea. Ah, right, there is still a way. Back at A3's location, after being injected with medicine, he was somewhat more awake and able to sit up. His whole body had lost all strength, trembling in rhythmic fear. Just when he thought everything was safe, his gaze suddenly shifted to the side. Lying in a niche, unbeknownst to him, Amorph had been standing there for some time. His eyes flashed with a glint of hunger as he began to move.
Before A3 could even react, he rushed in at breakneck speed. In the blink of an eye, Amorph stood right in front of him, smoke puffing from his mouth. Witnessing this horrifying scene, A3 could only sit there helplessly, tears streaming down his face. Suddenly, he was pinned down to the ground. Then Amorph delivered a fatal stab through his body. A3's shrill scream of pain rang out. Amorph enjoyed another delicious meal, tearing and biting frantically. All over the ground, syrup flowed into a large pool, emitting a foul stench. After a while, he finished eating, licked his lips, and thought to himself, "That really hit the spot." Saying that, he reached out and grabbed the helmet lying nearby. Amorph held it up and looked into it himself. This way, they would know A3 had been dealt with by him. Quick as lightning, he slapped the camera lens. In the surveillance room, the display screen shattered into pieces. Finally, it lost the signal completely. An announcement came from the control room. A3 has been attacked by the monster. I repeat, A3 has been attacked. Upon receiving the notification, A1 immediately ran over. His eyes were bloodshot with anger as he panted heavily. Finally arriving and seeing A3 sitting there, A1 asked, "A1, are you okay?" He gently approached, reaching out his hand and asking again, "A1, answer me." To save his friend, A1 pressed the injection button and cursed. Damn it, I should have treated him right then and there. But before he could understand what was happening, a sharp tentacle shot out from the middle of A3's stomach. This stab pierced A1's neck, choking him instantly.
Feeling the pain spreading through his body, A1 collapsed to the ground, rolling in agony. As he lay there, A3's abdomen was slowly torn open. Hearing the strange noise, A1 panicked, turned his head back, and exclaimed, "Huh? Huh?" It turned out that to wait for him, Amorph had crawled inside A3's armor and lay in wait. Only now could he reveal himself comfortably. A1's face turned visibly pale as he tried to flee, but before he could carry out his intention, Amorph grabbed his head. He squeezed A1's neck tightly, lifting him high into the air. Then, Amorph leaned in close and said, "Now it's your turn to be dealt with."
His grip grew stronger and stronger, making the man unable to breathe, his eyes bulging. Finally, he met the most tragic end, red syrup splashing everywhere. Not stopping there, Amorph calmly feasted right in front of the camera screen. The entire scene was captured without missing a single detail. No sound came from the walkie-talkie, but Amorph knew they were scared out of their wits. Switching scenes to inside the surveillance room. Just as he thought, everyone fell into a state of panic. What is that thing? Arnold's face also turned visibly pale. We are all truly done for. But for Amorph, things hadn't stopped there yet. The danger wasn't just in the vents. Next, it would be their turn. After dealing with all the teams, he finally left, thinking to himself, wondering what plan his enemies would come up with next. Amorph quickly dashed away. They had only lost 6 lives. Counting both the soldiers and the ringleaders, there were still over 90 people left. With the warning just now, they would surely pour all their efforts into destroying him. Thinking it over, he still saw too much danger. He knew they didn't have enough armed equipment on this ship, but the problem lay with the mechanical weapons. If they used plasma weapons, Amorph would also be in danger. It was a type of heavy firepower weapon used in spaceship battles and often used to destroy ships and tanks. But this weapon was very heavy and large in size, so it would be difficult for one person to carry. There was a lighter version of this weapon, but the price was very expensive. and that lighter plasma launcher had been fully supplied by Megacorp to the fleets. Thinking of this, Amorph affirmed, looking at the facilities on this ship, if he guessed correctly, they were also assigned one launcher here. Just as he was about to continue moving, he suddenly heard a loud noise from below. A group of soldiers was currently patrolling down there. The troops were moving past the research area, likely thinking he was lying in ambush inside. Not wanting to waste any more time, Amorph exclaimed, "Great, my chance has come." Just like that, Amorph continued to dash forward. Taking advantage of the fact that they were investigating the wrong location, he had to seize the opportunity to deal with the ringleaders. Just taking them down would disrupt the enemy's command system, and above all, he had to kill Arnold. His existence was simply too dangerous for him.
Up inside the ventilation duct, Amorph was still eavesdropping on the group's conversation. A voice rang out, "Crisis Management Manager, where did that monster come from? More importantly, what is it?" Arnold explained, "The Supply Management Manager has an unregistered creature. It is very likely that this is what we are facing right now." Isung Samuel shouted loudly, "How can you speak so irresponsibly like that?" He continued, "We even gave the commander's armor to those soldiers, yet they still haven't achieved anything." Hearing this, Amorph exclaimed, "Oh, so it was meant for the commanders." He chuckled mockingly. "That armor is meant to protect humans in space. You should know how to utilize it better. Being stingy and miserly will only cost you your own lives." Unable to endure it any longer, Arnold began to retort, "If we had more advanced equipment, none of this would have happened, and for you to say my side hasn't done anything is very wrong." His face revealed clear anger as he stated the situation. "Currently, we have grasped information that the enemy is a very dangerous creature with superior intellect and the ability to mimic humans." Isung Samuel shouted, "Have you heard it speak yourself?" The atmosphere became stifling, with no one willing to back down. Being on a battlefield while still trying to gather information could lead to death, so one must act immediately on whatever information is available, no matter how little. Arnold continued, "We have currently sent soldiers into battle, but I want to request one more thing." Isung Samuel asked in annoyance, "What is it?" And the next sentence made him freeze, his eyes widening. "I want permission to use the military's plasma launcher." Isung Samuel exclaimed, "What?" The head of security cut in and shouted, "Are you crazy? We agreed to use that to fight the bandits." The bald man with glasses added, "Crisis Management Manager, we are on a spaceship."
The whole group just kept arguing like that. It's true that it used to be a warship, but what were you thinking using that thing inside the ship? If you want to commit suicide, then pack up and leave the ship. You can die wherever you want. Hey, be quiet. Up above, Amorph thought to himself, just as I thought, they have that thing. Seizing this opportunity, he began to observe the area once. The enemy side was in panic. This was the chance for him to finish them off. There were quite a lot of people below, but Arnold, Amorph's primary target, was standing too far away. The one in the closest position, finally, after searching, he identified the target. It was him. Amorph slowly swung his hand back and exclaimed, "Research Director Wei, the one who always tortured number 026. I'll choose him as the target." Without hesitation, he began to act. That made it even more convenient. He intended to deal with him anyway. His hand pierced strongly through the cover of the ventilation duct. Hearing a strange noise, Arnold was startled and turned his head to look back. And then, in that moment, he discovered Amorph jumping straight down towards Wei. Before he could react, Amorph's mouth was already gaping wide.
The sudden attack knocked him to the ground, red syrup splashing all over the floor. Witnessing that scene, the other's limbs went stiff, unable to move. As Amorph attacked once again, the crowd scrambled to run away. The monster was here. The next unfortunate victim was the head of security. Following him, the white-haired doctor also perished. In the room at that moment, screams of terror rang out incessantly. "Help! Save me!" One person anxiously urged, "Damn it! Is anyone there? Warn everyone on the ship immediately." The communicator responded, "Roger that, broadcasting from the control room." But before he could finish his sentence, a sharp tentacle stabbed straight into his throat. All the soldiers. In just the blink of an eye, Amorph had finished dealing with the noisy bunch. Suddenly, from behind him, a barrage of shots fired. The person responsible was Arnold. He thought to himself, "Impressive. I thought he had run away and disappeared, but he loaded his ammo and even put on armor." However, Amorph didn't care much. That gun had no effect on him anyway. What was he thinking?
Not wanting to waste any more time, he gathered momentum, preparing to rush forward. Well, if that guy wanted to die that badly. Just as Amorph was about to strike, suddenly a flash of intuition warned him. A series of visions appeared clearly in his mind the moment he rushed forward and was shot by Arnold. His face clearly showed anxiety as he wondered, "What? Does he have a plasma gun?" Amorph slowly backed away, staying on guard. That gun cost a fortune, but was extremely convenient to carry. Taking a hit to the head or chest would surely kill him instantly, and even a miss would result in severe injury. He affirmed, "Damn it, I knew he had connections to the Sujin family." Seeing that Amorph was no longer attacking, Arnold also realized and exclaimed, "Oh!" He didn't bother hiding it anymore, threw the other gun away, and reached into his coat pocket. "So you recognize it too?" The very next second, he pulled out an expensive plasma gun.
Sung Samuel exclaimed, "Is that a plasma gun?" The old man with glasses replied, "But that thing is worth an entire fortune." Arnold smirked and continued, "I don't know what you are, but you remind me of someone." His face revealed murderous intent as he exclaimed, "A monster with countless abilities. You are very much like my old master, Sihyun Sujin." Without hesitation, Arnold fired the first shot. Fortunately, Amorph reacted in time and dodged to the side. Not stopping there, he continued to fire a series of other shots. Looking at where Amorph was hiding, Arnold spoke up, stating he had eliminated all possibilities before it even arrived here. Hiding behind the table, he thought worriedly to himself. The situation was disadvantageous for him. From the moment he opened his eyes in the ship's hold until now, he had never found it as terrible as right now. Amorph's mouth was still covered in dark red syrup stains, but he had encountered many situations worse than this when playing games, and the winner had always been this Amorph. No matter who appears next, even including his master, the one to welcome them will be him, not Arnold. Bears, lions, and wolves are carnivorous animals, often appearing in media and seen as symbols of strength and indomitability.
However, the truth is not so. In reality, predators are merely cowardly creatures, always avoiding clashes that could lead to serious damage. But being cautious to the point of cowardice is the element that makes a true hunter. As an Amorph player, naturally he has known this by heart. Just as he thought this, a gunshot was fired from somewhere right above Amorph's head. But one must absolutely not forget that no matter how strong the trait or how important the information in hand is, without caution, it amounts to nothing. Facing this situation, he had to praise him. He had to admit that this guy was quite good. When Amorph's gaze swept across Arnold to sense him, he perceived that his heartbeat was very stable, meaning he had been merely feigning anxiety all along. Perhaps he had investigated and assumed that he possessed something similar to a bioscanner. His face revealed cunning. This guy shared the same hunter bloodline as Amorph and was an experienced predator. Without a moment of hesitation, he began to move, jumping in another direction.
Seeing his silhouette, Arnold continued to fire aimed shots. A series of explosions rang out continuously in the space. Isang Samuel anxiously reminded, "Crisis Management Manager, don't forget you were in the control room." The old man with glasses added, "Be careful not to let bullets hit the equipment." Hearing these words, Arnold turned his head back and replied, "I remember." As soon as the words ended, he suddenly fired another shot as fast as lightning. Fortunately, in that dangerous moment, Amorph managed to move to a new hiding place in time. Arnold, his face darkening with anger, gritted his teeth and swore, "You pest." At the same time, at Amorph's spot, he broke into a cold sweat and sighed with relief. "He's planning to trick me." He could hear him whispering into the walkie-talkie. "Notice from the captain, the monster has attacked the control room, requesting all troops to gather here." Hearing this, Amorph hit again and calculated. "I knew he would stop. Those previous shots were just to keep me trapped in here." It was both to stall for time and to keep Amorph away from the commander and other members, then let his men come to capture him later. Thinking of this, he laughed with contempt. His trap was successful. Very good. While trying to find a way to escape this place, he suddenly discovered something. "I have to finish dealing with this place before their reinforcements arrive." Amorph agilely grabbed the fire extinguisher nearby. A fire extinguisher? Seems usable. Without hesitation, he pulled the pin on the extinguisher cap. Then he aimed the nozzle at where Arnold was standing. Just like that, a layer of white smoke covered the surroundings, blocking the view. Arnold hurriedly covered his nose and shouted, "It's starting to play tricks."
Hiding within the smoke, Amorph dodged the bullets. The entire group fell into a passive state, fearing each other. "I can't see anything." Seeing this, Arnold shouted angrily, "You idiots! It's come to this and you still don't know to pull out your weapons." They stammered in response. I apologize, sir." But suddenly another voice echoed back, Where is that monster?" He was startled and exclaimed, "Could it be?" Arnold hurriedly ordered, "Damn it, everyone, get the commander out of here immediately." Amorph thought to himself, fast reaction. He approached behind a soldier, but his plan was not just that. As he did, his mouth full of sharp fangs began to open. Then Amorph bit hard into the soldier's neck, causing syrup to splash everywhere. A blond soldier looked around and called out loudly, "Commander, where are you?" A voice replied, I am here." Before he could run in that direction, a voice reminded him, "The commander isn't here. He should be over there." The soldier exclaimed in surprise. "Huh?" Hiding behind the thick white smoke, Amorph was still waiting. "The monster is trying to trick everyone. Don't fall for its trap." Understood. However, before they could finish their sentence, a claw strike was unleashed. The blond soldier stood motionless in fear. "Don't listen to that nonsense. The commander has been killed by the monster." He stammered, Navigation, Captain?" But then suddenly, a cursing voice came from another direction. "Damn it, shit. Don't listen to those words. It is mimicking the captain's voice."
The blonde soldier was falling deeper into panic. "I am the navigation captain, trust me." "Damn it, be careful, those are the monster's words." With no other choice, he had to raise his gun. "Shoot him right now, hurry up!" As soon as the voice stopped, he fired a shot, shouting loudly, "Die!" Taking that bullet from over there, only a scream full of pain was heard. It turned out that the person standing there was actually Arnold. At this moment, one of his arms was scorched and burning from the shot. Damn it!
Before he could understand what was happening, a bad premonition struck him from behind. Immediately, Arnold grabbed his gun and fired a series of shots, shouting, "Got you!" Thanks to its agile reaction, Amor dodged the attack safely. Not stopping there, it did not give up but continued to rush forward. Along its spine, the flesh suddenly tore open, and from within the body, a pair of wings unexpectedly sprouted. Seizing this opportunity, Amor flew straight toward where Arnold was standing. In that moment, his face clearly showed terror mixed with helplessness. His pupils only had time to capture the most horrific image of his life. In the blink of an eye, Arnold was torn apart, red syrup spurting out violently. His body helplessly collapsed. He lay slumped on the ground, ending everything. In this round, Amorph was ultimately the satisfying winner. Suddenly, the sound of rushing footsteps approached in unison. A soldier pointed his gun toward the blurry shadow and asked, Captain?" But before he could finish his sentence, Amorph appeared towering right beside him. By the time the blonde soldier realized it, it was too late, his eyes rolling back in shock. Striking his vision was the sight of Arnold's face, no longer intact, his eyes still open. However, Amorph had no intention of staying and glided past. Even after he left, the soldier stood rooted to the spot. Amorph quickly climbed back up into the ventilation duct. As he left, he felt a twinge of regret. It would have been great to stay and enjoy this meal, but there wasn't much time left, his intuition telling him to leave this place immediately. After everything was over, Yosung Samuel looked at everyone and shouted angrily, "Idiots!" He glared and asked, "What kind of work takes this long, huh?" The soldiers could only stutter. "We apologize." Seeing the ground covered in syrup, a foul stench rising, he hurriedly ordered, "Disgusting! Clean this place up immediately for me." They responded, "Yes, sir." Just as he finished speaking, another person stepped forward and spoke, "Commander, we have summarized the casualty levels." Yosung Samuel turned around and exclaimed, "Oh, the acting head of medical, is it?" He asked anxiously. "Is anyone else alive?" The head of medical replied, "No, sir. Everyone has lost their lives, except for the acting head of research."
Inside another room, Wei was being treated. Usung Samuel asked again, "What? That old researcher Wei isn't dead yet?" The head of medical replied, "Yes, he is currently in the recovery room. Although it is fortunate that his body has become immune to the monster's neurotoxin, I fear he has permanently lost his sight, smell, and taste." He added, "Even if he lives, Mr. Wei will need life support devices for the rest of his life." But then, the next sentence made Usung Samuel furious. Why don't we just surrender to the space dogs, sure?" Boiling with rage, he questioned back, "How can you be so selfish?" Not bothering to say another word, he immediately turned and walked away. "Stop talking nonsense and focus on finishing your job." As he walked, Usung Samuel thought, "Damn it, how many people have we lost in total? The captains from research, technology, medical, navigation, crisis management, and even food supply are all gone. How are we supposed to fight the bandits with just faith?" In that moment, an idea struck him. Actually, maybe I should just abandon everything and run away. Suddenly, a soldier exclaimed, The soldier said loudly, "This gun doesn't look like a normal type. It looks like one of the commander's weapons." While they were still examining it, Usung Samuel shouted, "You there, give that to me."
So this is Arnold's plasma gun, is it yours? Looking at the gun, Yusung Samuel secretly felt lucky. Great, it still has 60% energy. It's a bit scratched, but still usable for self-defense. There's a small crack on the gun. He can't trust anyone anymore. Only he can protect himself. After taking the gun, Yusung Samuel continued to head outside. The monster is still roaming around the ship, and in 2 days we will clash with the bandits. What should be done? Meanwhile, at Amorph's location, he muttered to himself. He had destroyed almost all the ringleaders. It would take some time for the AI system to report the problem, and he didn't have to worry much about that stupid Commander Yusung. Sensing this was the most suitable opportunity, Amorph decided it was time to expand the nest. He looked around and calculated. Currently, he had 3 options. There was also his nest in the cooling chamber, so there would be 2 more options. Food is the key to survival, so the cafeteria is the most important place. Amorph could poison the food source and cut off their supply. Next is the armory, which is also where the plasma launcher is located. He must do something before the enemy uses it to deal with him. And finally, the laboratory, which contains many DNA samples and psionium. But the problem is that the rate of obtaining high-quality samples is less than 10%. As he spoke, Amorph looked at his own body. With just psionium, he would have more than enough strength to reach the Amorph's adolescent state. After that, he would prepare to fight against the bandits, as well as future enemies.
Not wasting any more time, he began to act. It was decided then he would make a nest in the cafeteria and the laboratory, then steal the plasma launcher.
Amorph thought to himself he didn't intend to use it, but he couldn't ignore the words that guy Arnold had said. Whether his master was Sayun Sujin or anyone else, it was very likely they would join hands with the bandits or disguise themselves as one of them. Nothing is more terrifying than an unidentified enemy. He had to scramble to collect everything he could use. While walking, suddenly a voice rang out. "Hello." Amorph hid in a spot, thinking to himself, it seemed like number 26's mood was quite good today, probably because they didn't do any injection experiments today. He immediately replied, "Are you happy?" The other side responded, "Yes, no pain." Suddenly he remembered something. Thinking back, in this chaotic situation, how could they conduct experiments anymore? They might all be cowering in their rooms for all he knew. In that moment, Amorph came up with an idea. Should he take a risk? Thinking so, he touched the sensor device to activate it.
A series of bright red lights flashed along with a shrieking howl. A blinding red light shone, and a mysterious voice spoke up, asking, "What are you doing?" Amorph replied in his own language, "I am waiting." He thought deeply to himself, "Nearly 30 minutes and no one has come yet? Then it's safe." After that, he raised his claws. "I don't need to move stealthily anymore." Immediately, Amorph pushed the ventilation duct cover down. He crawled out and jumped down, landing calmly. He looked at Amip in front of him and said, "Long time no see." She replied, "Yes." Amorph rested his hand on his chin. "Looking at this color, it seems she's quite healthy, isn't she?" Then he wondered, "But staying here forever means starving to death. Should I take her along?" Amorph looked at the happily wiggling Amip. The spherical amoeba wasn't too picky about food and was immune to neurotoxins, so leaving her at the nest or taking her around with him were both fine. Having thought it through, he immediately asked, "Do you want to go out?" She looked bewildered. "Go out? Where to?" He informed her, "Out of this laboratory." Hearing that, Amip excitedly cheered, "Yes, I do." After receiving the response, Amorph started finding a way. He turned around and didn't forget to warn. "Be careful," she expressed. "Okay." He quickly rushed forward, aiming his head straight ahead, intending to break this test tube. The sound of shattering glass rang out. Amorph had successfully brought Amip out. She jumped onto his shoulder from below, thanking him profusely without stopping. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Suddenly, he told her, "Wait a moment." Amip asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" Amorph replied, "Let me create a nest first." He opened his mouth and spewed out a green viscous liquid. That slime covered the entire room. It clung into swollen clumps, spreading across every nook and cranny. Inside the swelling mass, a pale pink object peeked out. Amorph looked at his masterpiece and thought to himself, they won't be able to use this laboratory anymore. Then he grabbed a brain lying on the floor. So hungry, probably because I used too much energy just now. He started devouring it ravenously. The brain was still alive, but the taste wasn't good at all. Perhaps from now on, I must always remember that I need nutrients, not appealing flavors. Right next to him, Amip was also nibbling on its food. Amorph pondered, looks like it's enjoying the meal too. Suddenly, a scent wafted over. Amorph smelled it and immediately realized someone was coming. He detected something approaching. One of them had very steady footsteps, likely a soldier. The other must be a researcher. Amorph hid in a corner to secretly observe, looking smug. Only two? Even if they called the whole unit here, they might not be able to fight me. The researcher and the soldier walked in. The scene before them left both astonished. The researcher shouted, "What is going on here?" The soldier, with a terrified look, replied, "It seems like these are roots of something."
Sensing a gaze upon him, he spun around, raising his gun. Immediately, Amorph dashed towards him. The bullets were fired in rapid succession, but were still too weak against him. He extended his claws, pouncing on the soldier. Then, Amorph's claws pierced through his body. The soldier, too terrified to speak, stared wide-eyed at him. Finally, due to excessive blood loss, the soldier collapsed. Done with that, Amorph turned to look at the researcher, who was sitting slumped on the floor, screaming miserably, "Please spare me." His claws gripped the man's head tightly. Just then, Amip moaned, "Pain, pain." Amorph looked back and saw her on his shoulder, furious. He realized something. It seemed this man had participated in experiments on the spherical amoeba. No wonder it got angry as soon as it saw the one who used to torture it. Then he thought to himself, "Right, how could I forget that the spherical amoeba can also parasitize humans?" Immediately, he plunged his tail into the researcher's neck. Green veins bulged thickly on the man's face. Amorph held Amip out in front of the researcher, but Amip hesitated to pounce. Wrapping the researcher's head tight, Amorph stood by observing and pondering. A soldier died instantly, while a researcher died slowly as their head gradually melted away, wondering whose fate was worse. He picked up a glass jar, poured all the food inside into his mouth, telling himself, "They're dead anyway. What does the process matter?" Suddenly, the system panel appeared in front of him. He rejoiced, "So lucky today. I achieved the goal faster than expected." On the system panel, a line of text appeared, "Currently able to specialize in one type. Do you want to activate physical enhancement?" And two options appeared.
Yes or no? Amorph smirked and thought, so lucky today. He thought, I achieved the goal faster than expected. The system panel appeared, currently able to specialize in one type. Do you want to activate physical enhancement? Yes, no. Amorph looked at the panel and thought, I've eaten over 500 different samples, yet only received 3 traits, but getting one type is fine. He gently touched Amip, wondering if he should activate it. Amorph turned to look at her and said, wait for me a bit, it won't be long. And he pressed the yes button, agreeing. Then immediately after that, Amorph's body became sturdy.
Legs and thighs also became unexpectedly firm. Seeing this appearance of his, Amip was extremely surprised. She emitted a sparkling light and said, so big! Amip happily jumped around continuously saying, so big, so big! Amorph said, I have become an adult. She wondered, what is an adult? He gently explained, it is when a juvenile grows up. Amip seemed to realize something. A juvenile is a baby. She joyfully jumped up and down. Big baby, big baby. Amorph thought helplessly, a baby, huh? He thought to himself, well, biologically speaking, I haven't completely reached the adult stage yet, so it's not entirely wrong. While Amip was happily bouncing around everywhere, Amorph continued to think, when she learns how to communicate more, I will explain it later. He thoughtfully raised his hand, but my whole body now is much heavier and sturdier, just like transforming from a cheetah into a rhinoceros. Looking at his arm, he assessed. Height has increased quite a bit. Arms and legs are covered with an armor layer. Amorph suddenly lay down as if gathering momentum, still thinking, and especially the legs have been strength-enhanced, becoming much thicker.
The system panel was still being carefully reviewed, but what about the traits? It displayed all the information about him. Species, space-aggressive xenomorph MDHK. State, juvenile. Objective, survival, successfully evolved once. Existing traits, supersenses, wings, chitin shell, paralysis poison, reinforced exoskeleton, acid blood, reinforced leg strength, mimic, natural recovery, tentacle blade, polluted organs. Superpowers include predatory senses, merged, superhuman organs. Type, physical enhancement. Currently, you can only focus on one type, superhuman strength 2.6. He quickly read the important information. Natural recovery, tentacle blade, polluted organs. Natural recovery had merged with intense vitality to become self-regeneration power. Amorph thought to himself, everything was fine except for the penalty regarding this type. Type, physical enhancement. Currently, you can only focus on one type, superhuman strength 2.6. The information indicated that the number of types Amorph could possess was unlimited, but every time a type was obtained, the requirements for the next type would double.
According to Amorph, for example, if I possess the super strength type first, the amount of points needed to achieve physical enhancement will increase from 10 to 20. He considered, if this were just a game, I would sit back and recalculate the implantation time for the types, but danger is very close. I cannot do that. Then Amorph raised his hand, thinking, let's temporarily delay activating the new type. I must take this opportunity to test the traits I just received. That arm immediately revealed a tentacle, making him think, the durability of the tentacle blade is too poor. After being swung, it immediately pierced the nearby wall. Amorph retracted the tentacle, still pondering, but thanks to the physical enhancement type, it has been upgraded and reinforced. And then he unleashed another move emitting a green substance. Next, polluted organs. Places this substance passed through gradually melted. Using it together with my available traits works too. This trait can create spores containing acid solution. Amorph looked and commented, with this, I have more than enough strength to turn this entire ship into a fortress. Fighting against tough enemies while gaining this skill, what could be better? He walked while thinking, and Amip was hopping behind. Everything checked out, should leave here now, right? She jumped onto Amorph's shoulder and asked, baby, where are we going? He replied, cargo hold. Amorph and Amip left together. He thought, I wonder how the crew will react if they catch me now. Will they cry, or try their best to run to the escape pods? The answer will soon be clear. The sound of footsteps and screaming became increasingly intense. Run! It's coming! A brown-haired man hurriedly spoke loudly. Hurry up! We can't delay any longer. When seeing the last person enter, he shouted, all right, close the door immediately. That person looked at the trembling door closer and hurriedly ordered, what are you doing? Close the door! But the other person just trembled and replied, we are all about to die here. The brown-haired man slapped that person hard while scolding, useless. Move aside. Then he quickly flipped the switch.
The iron door gradually closed right after that, but unexpectedly, 2 hands with black claws tinged with brownish red gripped tightly, distorting the door. Amorph appeared, tearing the door apart. His dark red mouth made people lose their wits at first glance. Amorph approached. Some people vomited, others screamed in terror. Their faces were all filled with fear, pleading desperately, stay away from me, save me. Then came a horrific scene of bloodshed, accompanied by shrill shrieks. Bloody handprints dragged along the glass door frame. Not only that handprint, but there were many other bloodstains on that glass frame. Those terrifying screams
echoed even out into space. Scene change. Someone's bruised eyes slowly moved. It turned out to be Wei, thinking, I don't hear any footsteps from the doctor anymore. Has something happened? His hand trembled and gradually clenched tight. Damn it, it can't be like this.
Wei lay inside the life support pot, lamenting what he had done to deserve such extreme pain. Living like this was worse than death. Then a sound caught his attention. Curiosity made Wei wonder, what was that noise? Did some soldiers come here? He gasped, his face terrified. No, this is... Outside the containment chamber, a morph appeared, causing him to scream in despair. That monster, it has come to find me. Outside, he began pressing the keys on the chamber's panel. Wei was astonished and wondered, what is it doing? A plastic-like substance flowing down his eyes caught his attention. It was a mitt covering Wei's head, then using a special move to quickly destroy his head.
Feeling the pain of corrosion, Wei despaired. My head is melting. A morph stood outside as if poised to attack, driving him to even greater despair. Is anyone there? Someone is trying to kill me here. Screams mixed with blood turned into a slaughter. Fast forward, 3 hours passed quickly. A meep gradually crawled out of the containment chamber. A morph held her and asked, "Finished eating?" She replied, "Yes." He slowly sat down. "You have taken revenge. How does it feel?" She asked, "What is revenge?" Wei's containment chamber had sometime become nothing but a dry skeleton. A morph explained, "It means devouring the one who tortured you. Very delicious." He looked at her happy demeanor and thought, it seems 26 still doesn't understand complex emotions like revenge, though it's unclear if she hasn't learned it yet, or if it's the nature of the species not to learn it. A morph pondered, to be watched by these researchers, one cannot help but be suspicious. I just hope she doesn't develop into a sea devil or something similar. He explained, the sea devil is similar to the spherical amoeba, only living on ocean planets. The body is about 25 meters long, containing countless tentacles inside. Because the two species look quite similar, players always suspect that the sea devil and spherical amoeba have something in common. A morph looked up at the sky and thought, ultimately it's just because the game company was too lazy to invest in character design, but who knows what reality will hold. A meep's voice brought him back to focus. "Baby, I'm full." She slowly crawled up a morph's arm, making him silently acknowledge, "She looks completely exhausted." A morph and a meep gradually left together. He looked around. His nest was still stable.
A morph's face gradually became terrifying. Now his and her shadows slowly passed through the chaos here. It was time to find the next prey. In the territory ruled by the space dog C-08 Drava cartel, a spaceship was echoing with screams, "Help me!" Someone grabbed a girl's hand. While she screamed loudly, he cursed, "Get over here, now!" Her face was drenched in tears of fear, surrounded by wicked men holding her tight. "Brother, save me!" The blonde man panic-strickenly ordered, "Let her go immediately!" Suddenly, a piece of candy flew towards him, piercing through his back. That man lay in a pool of tomato sauce. The perpetrators were fierce-looking men. Someone screamed, "No!" Under the commander's orders, they became even more rampant. "See what they have and take it all for me. Kill all the men, take the women." Those wicked men surrounded the bound people and loudly declared, "This is the creed of our Drava cartel."
Elgin rested his chin on his hand, admiring the chaotic scene. "Hey, what are you standing there spaced out for? Come over here and look." Screams mingled with the scene. "Please, please, spare me." He sat there, glancing at the pile of treasure beside him, thinking annoyedly. It had taken too much time to deal with these amateurs. A sentence caught Elgin's attention. "Commander, why are you doing this to us?" He listened to these words. "I paid you mercenaries for protection, but why are you doing this?" Immediately, Elgin replied with a sentence that stunned the other person. "Idiot, do you think we are friends?" "What?" he said casually. "You hired a stranger. What more do you expect? Isn't it boring as hell? You megacorp pig brains are always just like that." The other person was furious. "You bastard, what did you say?" he shouted. "The defense force has received our distress signal and is on their way here. If they arrive, you are dead meat." Elgin picked his ear. "Oh, I'm so scared." The other person spoke more and more aggressively, making him furious. "It would be too easy for a bastard like you to just die. I have to tell them to turn you all into mutant giants."
Elgin slowly stood up, silent and saying nothing. He took the short sword from the hand of the subordinate trembling before him. Elgin said to the other person, "Look here, Commander. It's not like you don't know the rules of megacorp mercenaries. Let me say it again slowly and clearly for you." He grabbed the man's head so fast that he couldn't react in time. Elgin released killing intent. A mercenary betraying during a mission is an unforgivable crime. But if there are no witnesses, then there is no crime at all. "What?" He leaned his face closer. "Sorry to burst your bubble, but those national defense forces won't be of any help either. And who is left here to explain anything?" The other man's face darkened as he asked,
"Are you planning to eliminate us?" Elchin replied, "I'm not sure what these big fancy words mean, but I can assure you of one thing." He smirked, licking the blade, and continued, "That is, I really enjoy skinning you, Megacorp pigs." And then a scene full of tomato sauce and screams ensued. Scene change. Elchin had just returned. The subordinates around him bowed 90 degrees and shouted loudly, "Welcome back, leader."
Elchin threw a piece of face skin from an unfortunate victim and said, "Take this and do your work as usual." Understood. He asked, "By the way, do we have any other work to do today?" The subordinate holding the human skin asked back in confusion, "What do you mean, sir?" Elchin sat on the chair and said, "Nothing. Summon Mayon here for me." The subordinate ran off. Understood. He thought to himself in annoyance, "Damn it, why am I surrounded by nothing but idiots?" Shortly after, the subordinate announced, "Boss, she is here." Si Hyun appeared with a timid demeanor. "Greetings, sir. Did you summon me?" He said, "Yes, I heard there is an issue on your side. Speak clearly. What is the problem?" "The thing is," she awkwardly explained, "we originally had an appointment to meet a client introduced by an acquaintance, but suddenly we could not contact them anymore." Elchin shouted angrily, "What?" And she screamed in fear as well. He ordered, "Explain it clearly to me." "Yes, sir." Si Hyun said, "I received a request from the research ship commanded by Mr. Eusing Samuel. They asked us to dispose of a corpse." Elchin interrupted, "The Samuel family? Have they arrived yet? Do you know them?" He crossed his arms and sighed. "They are the third family of Titan. So whose corpse is it?" His eyes immediately narrowed when he heard Si Hyun reply, "A noble, sir. It is a woman from the Sujin family." She added, "In our last exchange, they said they would pay us 1 million. Elchin sighed in expiration. 1 million, huh? Those lunatics. Then he thought, they must be hiding something. The situation with Megacorp has been very strange lately.
Elton pondered. Rumors said that the Azerton family, the rising generation of Mars, was currently confronting the Sujin family, who had ruled Earth for so long. He reflected that while the Azerton family's expertise lay in ship development, they were also secretly conducting DNA modification. Elton thought to himself, a body from the Sujin family must have undergone countless comprehensive DNA modifications. What if he stole that body and handed it over to the Azertons? He calculated that they would surely let him name a worthy price for that corpse. Elton smirked. His chance to get rich was coming.
Elchin looked up and thought to himself, surely they would let him set a more worthy price for that corpse. He growled, full of calculation. The opportunity to get rich was coming. But the more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became, his eyes gazing into the distance as he cursed and swore. Those Azerton bastards had turned it into that mutant giant. He wanted to crush them into pieces, but business was business, and personal matters were personal. He turned to ask Si Hyun, "So, in short, we can't contact them. Were those people ambushed, or what?" Ajit replied timidly, as if trying to squeeze out every word, "I'm not really sure, sir." A terrifying expression appeared on his face. Elchin continued, growling, "So someone is lurking near us, huh? I don't know who he is, but he has some nerve." He shouted loudly, acting majestic, pointing his hand forward and giving a clear order. "When we are done handling this place, we will depart for Isung Samuel's ship. Prepare to hunt him down for me." His subordinates immediately obeyed. Elchin didn't forget to add a clear instruction. "Blow that ship away from me. Don't leave a single trace." The command made all the soldiers shout in unison, "Understood." His ship seemed to start up, locking onto the target. It fired continuously, shattering the yellow ship in front of it. A device had been pre-placed on the hull of the yellow ship, a time bomb counting down the seconds to detonation. Then a loud explosion rang out, creating a sound that echoed through space. It was enough to awaken the monster's focus. Amorph looked up. It was them. He immediately grasped the situation and placed his hand on the floor.
Everything around him turned red, his eyes glowed brightly, and 2 words appeared in his mind: connect. The iron bars seemed to gradually connect with each other by red lines. After connecting with everything, the monsters gradually realized the enemy's plot. It seemed they had bored a hole outside the hull of this research ship to conveniently dock their spaceship. Looking at the strange symbol on the ship's hull, they understood immediately. This symbol clearly belonged to the space docks. From the ship's hull, a strange yellow circle appeared. A masked man kicked that circular section out and entered. Immediately, Elchin's subordinates followed one by one. Observing the subordinates through the connection, Amorph pondered. They were moving straight to the cockpit. Truly warship-class players, they knew exactly what to do the moment they set foot on board. Those men continued using advanced tools to cut another section on the ship's hull to create a door. Watching this, he gloated, though he wondered whether to call them smart or stupid. Usually, anyone boarding a ship like this would immediately sense something was wrong. Watching them kick the door open and march inside with confidence, he made another accurate judgment. Greed must have blinded them. As expected, the subordinates were all wide-eyed with shock. The scene on the ship at that moment was a pile of viscous liquid that the monster called a nest, completely covering the room. The subordinates reported to Elchin, "Leader, we've secured the cockpit, but something isn't right." He was enjoying some wine, but upon hearing this, he paused and asked, "What is it?" The orange-haired man looked up at the strange organisms and explained to him, "There's no life left on the ship, and the surroundings are full of some kind of plants that look very creepy." Elchin shouted angrily, "What kind of plants grow in space? Are you kidding me?" The subordinate spoke through the phone with a fearful voice, "But it's true, sir." Furiously clenching his fist, he didn't hesitate to throw the wineglass away and shouted through the speaker, "A bunch of useless fools. I'll go see for myself. If I find out you're lying, I'll twist all your heads off." With that, Elchin and the other subordinates headed towards the waiting ship. Amorph also realized it. 2 hearts and a set of advanced machinery. It seemed this mutant giant was their leader. He carefully observed the remaining ones. Should I check out the others too? This insect man has a body emitting pheromones.
He looked over at the laughing purple-haired guy, a machine from the Star River Association, with a mechanical heart, not a real one. A multi-species faction, huh? That's interesting. Amorph seemed gloating, coming across this right when he didn't know how to kill a guy from 2 different races other than humans. This would make completing the evolution conditions to the adolescent stage much easier. Then he saw someone. That person was Si-Young. Strange. Why was there such a silent person in there? He felt a bit suspicious, as if inside her head there were only machines and not a brain, which is why she turned out like that. Saying that, he stood up and moved closer. He had to observe more carefully. Seeing Amorph's actions, Ameep immediately spoke up and asked, "Where is Big Baby going?" He whispered back, "Going out. It's very dangerous, so you stay here." He didn't forget to instruct Ameep, "Watch that thing for me," causing her to wonder, "That thing?" Amorph signaled as he went out, "It's very important," while Ameep jumped up, "Okay, Big Baby can trust me."
Leaving that shelter, he flew as fast as possible, immediately formulating the next plan in his head. While the enemy was lowering their guard would be his only chance, he had to destroy the energy source on their ship. He couldn't let them leave here. As he leaped away, he reasoned that with their bottomless greed, they would definitely try their best to protect both ships and would certainly have to split into 2 teams to both plunder and defend. Everything turned red, carrying the allure of the next game in Amorph's plan. When they split up, it would be time for him to start the hunt, just like every other time. Extending his fingers out of the door, using his sharp claws, Amorph carved a hole in the door. He forcefully threw the door open. Then, step by step, he walked out.
Thoughts raced through Amorph's mind. Didn't these guys install any security system? It makes sense, though. They are bandits, after all. He released his spiritual power to sense the surroundings. They probably never expected that they themselves would be robbed one day, right? At the same time, the sound of the reactor rang out not far away. Amorph pondered. Excellent. Found the nuclear reactor. It's not too far from here. Then he moved forward. The nuclear reactor with tangled wires gradually appeared before him. Using his ability again, he saw 2 robots guarding the reactor door, and he immediately calculated. The situation was mostly stable, except for those security robots. If attacked, they would immediately report to the central AI system. In that moment, Amorph wondered how to get past this stage without getting caught. Suddenly, he bared his sharp teeth, saliva dripping down, looking ravenous. Should find something to fill my stomach first, shouldn't I? A while later, Amorph was running down a corridor. His footsteps suddenly stopped. He heard a strange noise and immediately sought a hidden corner to observe. Amorph peeked out to scout and saw a human with an insect. He quickly decided to deal with them right there. Waiting for the prey to get close, without a moment's delay, he quickly rushed out, extending his sharp claws towards the human.
With one strike, the head was severed, syrup flowing in a long stream, splashing everywhere. The insect man smelled the blood. He quickly took out a tool, but Amorph was a step faster, grabbing his hand tightly. Next, the insect man was beaten black and blue, dizzy endlessly. One of his arms fell off. The insect man screamed in pain, "My hand!" Amorph continued to use his head to ram into the guy's skinny body. The insect man couldn't take it, spitting out a mouthful of syrup. And then he focused his strength into his arm, gripping the top of the guy's head tightly. The insect man screamed, "Help me!" A second later, he tore the guy's head right off. The guy had no breath left. Too hungry, Amorph had to sit and eat the insect man's body. After gnawing, he pondered, "Just as I thought, eating these NPCs isn't enough to meet the evolution conditions." He heard a sound from the reinforcement call phone. Voices rang out from the phone. "Patrol team, what's going on? Why aren't you saying anything?" Amorph cleverly replied, "Nothing." The other end continued, "Then answer softly, you idiot." The other end mourned, "Don't be lazy over there." Amorph replied, "I apologize." Amorph immediately broke down the door. He entered, ransacking everything, thinking, "I don't need to confront the robots." He looked around. It must be around here somewhere. The very next second, he released a pile of green mucus fluid.
That slime was green, and that slime corroded the floor. The nuclear reactor appeared right before his eyes. Amorph pondered, "Excellent. I knew it." He continued calmly, having calculated beforehand. If they were humans, they would have realized it immediately, but these are robots. They are not programmed for unexpected situations. Spraying that green substance once more, Amorph looked down, clearly revealing satisfaction. Done with the engine part. A series of announcements rang out, notifications from the control room, requesting reinforcements. The monster is trying to break down the door to get in here. The man who had lost an arm turned and shouted at the blonde guy. Damn it, they don't have enough people left to send over to support us. Seeing that, the blonde guy panicked and asked worriedly, "What about the commander? Where is the captain?"
Other soldiers were maimed, some were disinfecting wounds, others were clutching their heads, laughing madly. "The captain is dead! Wake up, everyone! Hey, we're all going to die!" Elton was shocked to hear his troops screaming on the other side. "It broke through the door! Everyone prepare for battle! No, I don't want to die!" On the screen, a massacre was unfolding, accompanied by screams. "Damn it, it's a smoke grenade! Looks like it's from the inside! Save me!" Elton broke out in a cold sweat, wondering what happened. He thought to himself, strange plants were growing all around, and there were no life signals, just like a ghost ship. He looked at the blue-haired guy typing on the keyboard and continued thinking, "I must quickly find the trace of the attacker. I ordered my subordinates to rewind the ship's footage." He recalled images of his soldiers in pain, maimed and crying out in hopelessness, but amongst them were only images of people with missing limbs or those intact but gone mad. Gritting his teeth, he thought, no one on this ship is sane anymore. What on earth did they encounter?
Then Elchin turned to the vice leader. "Hey, rewind to the older segments." The other guy obeyed. "Copy that." On the screen were two men. "Copy that. Remember to follow closely when finished. The route there is quite complex. Tell everyone to be careful." He looked at the slick-mouthed man and continued. "This guy must be in charge of the ship's security, right?" Then he looked at the bald man. "And that weak one over there must be Isung Samuel." He thought further. It seems their henchmen have all failed, so the ringleaders are starting to waver. But suddenly something made his eyes widen in surprise. He saw the image of a morph climbing down from the ceiling. It attacked from above? The image of a hand holding a gun, followed by the image of a morph attacking the other side. He thought, this creature definitely has intelligence. It must be a creature with supreme intelligence to be this dangerous. He recalled the image of it lunging from the ceiling and the terrified face of the scar-mouthed man. Elchin grew more fearful the more he thought about it. Just a moment ago, I was worrying about how to deal with the Sujin family, but now I have to worry about how to retreat safely from here. He turned and called out, "Hey, Manun!" But over on the side, Si-hyun was stunned by something. Seeing that, he shouted, "Manun!" She was startled. "Yes, leader called me." He asked, "You said contact was lost since last night, right?" She replied in a low voice, "Yes, the original plan was to meet yesterday." Then she explained, "But the ship never arrived, so we spent the whole day looking for them." Elchin listened and remained silent in contemplation. He thought, "I've grasped the situation of this research ship, but the problem right now is that it's still unclear what that creature is."
He grinned slyly. "But we tried to sneak in here without making any noise, so surely that monster hasn't noticed yet." Then he raised his hand to order. "All right, everyone go find that creature and destroy it for me. Then find the body." Suddenly someone called out, "Leader, something happened." He turned to ask, "What is it?" The orange-haired man stammered in shock. "The thing is, the ship's engine is broken." Elchin was surprised to hear that. "What?" he interrogated. "What do you mean? It was clearly running smoothly before." The other side stuttered. "Leader, it's because," he reported, "it is completely melted down, so nothing can be fixed anymore." The leader wondered, "Why?" Then he threw the device onto the floor, cursing. "Damn it!" He angrily smashed things. "How dare it play tricks on my ship? I will crush you into pieces." Seeing the scene before her eyes, Si-hyun fell to the ground in fear.
Elchin roared. "Mannion?" She stammered. "Yes, sir?" he asked. "Can you start this ship?" She replied. "Let me take a look." Hearing that, he immediately struck at her. "Damn it!" She covered her face in fear and cried out. "Ah!" She stammered back. "No, sir, I can do it." Elchin ordered. "You guys help her out. The rest of you come find that damn monster with me. Hurry up. I'll twist the head off anyone who falls behind." Meanwhile, on Amorph's side, he was observing everything. Seeing him like that, he smiled. "Oh ho, getting angry, are we?" He thought to himself. They just don't know it, but there are still survivors on this ship. There are about 20 of them, including the commander and the ringleaders, hiding and scurrying all over the place.
He imagined the room and those hiding within. He didn't spare them out of mercy. Megacorp and the bandits hated each other, so a brawl was inevitable. He rubbed his hands in glee. While the survivors were fighting madly with the bandits, he just needed to sit back and reap the benefits. He continued to watch the image of Si-hyun in the command room. Currently, there were only 3 bandits and a woman pretending to be a normal person in the command room. This could be a good opportunity to attack, but he felt something was off. He looked at the woman before him. Amorph's instincts were warning him that she was very dangerous. She was Arnold's master. At this moment, the crisis management manager smiled cruelly. A monster with countless abilities, you resemble my master Sai-Hyun Sujin quite a lot. Seeing this, Amorph scratched his face, wondering what that guy Arnold saw in him and this woman to say such a thing. She looked like someone who had undergone genetic modification, but as a noble of Megacorp, those who are always obsessed with extending their lifespan, this woman might have modified herself even more than Kasaragi Yujin. He thought to himself, if she was on par with a real player, it would be quite tough, even when he had evolved into the adolescent stage. He smiled. It had been a long time since he fought a genetically modified human. What could be better than witnessing a powerful opponent being both terrified and surprised by him? For now, he would temporarily monitor the person he guessed was Sai-Hyun Sujin and deal with the bandits first. The minions leading the way were trembling and sweating profusely.
Meanwhile, Elchin walked behind, grinding his teeth loudly. The subordinates were terrified because their boss was grinding his teeth and emitting an incredibly heavy, murderous aura. The expression of one subordinate changed when he noticed a signal on the device. He announced, "Big brother." Hearing this, Elchin replied, "What is it?" He happily reported back, "This bioscanner has detected a human signal." Elchin asked the subordinate, "So what?" The subordinate happily explained, "It points towards the captain's room, but the path there is blocked. I think if we drill a hole then—" Before the subordinate could finish speaking, Elchin shouted, "Idiot!" causing the subordinate to pee his pants. He glared at the subordinate. "Do you need my permission every time you want to go to the toilet?" The subordinate trembled. "No, sir." Then he replied, "All right, I'll do it right away." The others in the distance were also frightened and started drilling the wall. The wall was gradually drilled through. Once fully penetrated, the subordinate holding a detector took the lead and smashed through the wall. Stepping inside, he stared intently at the detector. Because he was too focused, he was shot in the face. The ones outside screamed when they saw him die. "Damn it, those inside have guns! Everyone hide!" Seeing his subordinates so useless, Elchin shouted orders that terrified them. He yelled, "Idiots! Charge in for me!" Having said that, Elchin rushed inside like a wild beast. Using his mechanical arm, he crushed a soldier's head, while with his normal hand, he punched another soldier's face in. Then he beheaded another one. The scene inside was incredibly bloody. Someone inside screamed loudly, "A monster!" We couldn't see more, but we could guess the scene was tragic, as blood splattered all over the wall. A soldier with a broken helmet rolled his eyes back and screamed in pain. Elchin was lifting that soldier up, surrounded by the bodies of many people. He threw the dead soldier next to a surviving scientist, making him almost pee his pants. Elchin slowly walked towards the survivor, while that man screamed, "Wait, I surrender!" He glared at the scientist and let him know that his bandit gang didn't care whether people surrendered or not. The scientist still tried to persuade the boss, "I am the chief doctor on this ship. I can help you guys." Elchin heard this and was surprised. "A doctor?" Elchin continued asking, "Then where's the ship's captain? And what are you doing in his cabin?" The doctor thought about this and was fuming. That bastard. Seeing this wasn't the time for anger, the doctor calmed down and replied, "He used an escape pod to flee already." Elchin asked further, "So the captain abandoned the entire crew and ran away?" The doctor fearfully replied, "I don't know if he managed to escape or not, but as far as I know, that's what happened." Elchin looked around and thought, "This is bad. This ship has been devastated by the monster, and the only one who knows every corner of the ship has run away." Remembering something, he looked at the doctor and thought, "Wait, maybe this guy knows something." He gritted his teeth threateningly and asked the doctor, "Hey, you're the doctor of this ship, right? Then you must know where the body is, right? This place is supposed to contain an important body, right?" He trembled and replied, "That body is already in the hands of the monster." Elchin was furious. "Again? It's that monster again." Furious, he slammed his hand against the wall next to the doctor. "Damn it, what does that monster want with that body?" The doctor was terrified and answered, It eats people." Hearing that, he was furious. "That means we don't have much time left." Elchin turned his back and ordered his subordinates, "You guys, the monster is holding the body. Split up and go find it. Go in groups of 6. Report immediately if there are any issues." The subordinates received the order and quickly executed it, obeying, "Yes, boss."
After giving orders to his subordinates, Elchin looked over at the doctor trembling on the ground and asked, "Hey doctor, you said you wanted to be a pirate? Lucky for you, we also need a doctor." He asked a question that made the doctor turn pale. "Hey, do you know about genetic modification?" The doctor responded in fear. "What? I know about that matter." The scene pans out, showing the subordinates taking action. Inside the room were the doctor, Elchin, and a subordinate. The doctor clearly declared, "Leave that to me." Meanwhile, Amorph was using the connection and had heard everything happening from beginning to end. Witnessing everything through the connection, Amorph evaluated with boredom. "How annoying. The battle between the survivors and the pirates ended much faster than I thought."
Resting his chin on his hand to think, Amorph reached a conclusion, but having a half-human, half-machine monstrosity as a boss, it wasn't anything strange. Looking towards the subordinates dividing into groups of 6, he commented on them. They were moving in groups of 6, except for the boss, who only had one subordinate following him. They moved, just like an army. Stopping the connection, Amorph told himself it was time to act. Seeing this, a Meep excitedly jumped towards him and demanded to follow. "I want to come too, baby." But he stopped her. "Stay here." She angrily replied, "No, I have to go to help." She made Amorph speechless with her stubbornness. Now she was behaving just like a child wanting to help her dad. Looking at the angry Meep, Amorph thought, perhaps a Meep also needed combat experience. Even if she followed, she wouldn't be much help, but he couldn't let her get in his way either. So he made the decision to pick her up, place her on his shoulder, and warned, "The enemy is very dangerous. Be careful." Sitting on his shoulder, she happily replied, "Of course, you too, baby." Leading a Meep along, Amorph pondered, "Where should I start?"
Then, looking towards the group of 6, he decided we should start with this group of 6 first. A subordinate was down checking the door. The insect man stood aside, complaining, "What is this, a forest? What kind of monster is this that can grow a tree taller than a door?" The one checking the door said to those behind, "Hey, we need to cut down all these trees to place the drill to drill the door." Hearing that, one complained, "So annoying." Then he used an axe to chop a tree trunk down, making green fluid splash everywhere. The one standing closest got covered in a lot of fluid and screamed, "What is this?" He yelled at the face of the one chopping the tree, "Hey, what the hell is this stuff?" The other laughed and replied, "Don't know, but it looks a lot like mucus fluid." The one covered in mucus fluid sighed, "This thing looks so gross." The one chopping the tree laughed so hard he couldn't close his mouth. The one checking the door scolded those two, "Hey, we don't have much time, get back to work." He held it up and exclaimed, "The more I look at it, the more it looks like—" Before he could finish, the one chopping the tree looked at the axe and saw it melting gradually, making him startle. The axe had melted into liquid form. He screamed loudly, "What the hell is this?"
The guy hit by the fluid started screaming in agony, causing the others to look in his direction. Half of his face had begun to melt. He clutched his face in pain. "My face!" After screaming, he collapsed face first into the pile of slime that used to be his face, terrifying the guy next to him. What the hell is going on? While leaning against the wall, he heard loud footsteps, so he turned around. Before he could understand what was happening, Amorph rushed in from nowhere and used his tail to pierce through the man, killing him instantly. The others were terrified upon seeing him. One shouted, The monster is there." Another remarked, Why does it look so different from what we saw earlier?" Then, the 3 standing behind started opening fire at Amorph, shouting while shooting, "Kill it!" But it had no effect on him because his skin was immune to bullets. Amorph rushed forward to attack, first the one examining the door, then another holding a gun. An insect man was shooting and shouting, "Die! Die!" when he was grabbed by the head by Amip using its body. Amorph was standing there enjoying the bodies of the dead, while Amip was using its body to suffocate the insect man, causing him to roll on the ground in pain. However, unfortunately, there was still one survivor who screamed, "Help!" causing him to startle and turn back to look.
Over there was a subordinate using a walkie-talkie to report in panic. The monster has appeared over here," he was saying. We need sup," when he was decapitated by Amorph, sending syrup splashing everywhere, staining an entire wall red. On the ground, the walkie-talkie rolled around, emitting a voice. "Where are you guys? Why aren't you saying anything?" He picked up the walkie-talkie and announced, "I made a slight mistake. There's nothing wrong here." Hearing that, the other side was extremely angry. "What? Are you crazy?" The person on the other end continued to scold furiously. "Did you eat a tiger's liver to dare joke around on the walkie-talkie?" Amorph continuously apologized to the other side. After speaking, he turned off the walkie-talkie and decided to keep it, thinking he should hold on to this walkie-talkie as it could be used to create a diversion. Amorph held the guy who had just been decapitated to examine him. This guy was still breathing. Was it because he was half human, half machine? Remembering the practices of the megacorps, those large companies didn't just provide ways to upgrade genes, they also replaced the human body, considered weak, with machinery.
Then Amorph remembered that they wanted to spread this ideology by any means necessary, so they kidnapped everyone regardless of species and performed enhancement surgeries, whether the person wanted it or not. Just as he put the head into his mouth, Amorph remarked, "Those megacorps are truly inhumane." While the head was still breathing, it screamed, "Help me!" Chewing on the cyborg, he wondered, "This is a machine, but eating it probably won't hurt, right?" As he ate, Amorph commented on the taste. "Interesting, a cyborg. So the taste is a bit strong with the smell of oil." Suddenly a panel appeared, startling him. After reading it, Amorph was surprised. "Oh, so it's just like in a game, so I'm not that surprised." The notification panel read, "Evolution process to the next level is half complete." He had completed the first mission, while the second mission had only completed 1 out of 10 objectives. Seeing that, Amorph remarked, "That was unexpected." He stood there thinking about the upcoming evolution, unable to stop grinning. There are 12 cyborgs on this ship, right? If I eat them all, I will evolve to the next level immediately. After dealing with the insect man, Emmett climbed back onto his shoulder and asked, "Hey baby, what are you so excited about?" He replied, "Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand." As he rushed off, Amorph thought, "Everyone calls them space dogs, bringers of disaster, but to me, they're like Santa Claus handing out gifts." A rockman fired while cursing, "Damn it," but his fate was already sealed when Amorph grabbed his head.
Then he tore off the guy's head after grabbing it. Amorph held the head in his hand and looked. As for the headless corpse, because it happened so fast, it hadn't fallen yet and remained standing, blood spraying from the neck. He turned to look at the chaos around him, having finished off 2 teams. He thought to himself, but I missed 3 robots.
A while later, walking through the base, he thought, that looks just like the guy who got hit with acid in the armory. His whole body melted except for a pair of legs. He pulled up a pair of legs of the cyborg. Should I swallow him whole just in case? Immediately, he put it in his mouth and chewed deliciously. Then he spat it out. The predatory effect didn't trigger. He looked around, coughing violently. It's just a corpse I haven't finished off yet. What could possibly happen? Then he extended his claws. Immediately, he plunged them into the cyborg. A MIP also popped up. "Baby hungry?" Amorph replied, "I have to eat those of this type." Then he groped around. "You go eat over there." A MIP replied, Okay, enjoy your meal." Then he propped up a hybrid cyborg. Doing this to 26 was a bit weird, but he had no choice. Suddenly, a walkie-talkie appeared on the cyborg's arm, and a voice spoke up. "Anyone still alive? Report in. I'm in the control room. We are still searching." The voice continued steadily. "The cargo hold is currently very messy, leader. The situation isn't good. This area looks like a battlefield." He mimicked a voice to reply. "I am searching in the armory." His mouth was still chewing, while the other guy continued. "Where's the captain in the laboratory? Why isn't he answering?" He stopped his action, raised the device, and chuckled. "We've found the laboratory." The other side replied, "This walkie-talkie isn't yours." He continued, "Yeah, he's just taking a final look." The other side said, "Is that so? All right." He hung up and thought speechlessly. Bandits working so meticulously? That guy is just a mutant giant, but I should still be wary of him.
Then he dragged the corpse away. He never expected that one day he would be hunting with a spherical Amorph. If the gaming community saw this, they would surely faint. "Over here, inside the room," he said while playing the game, "Amorphs are inherently solitary creatures, and I, in reality, am not exactly the friendly type either. The situation is starting to diverge from what I used to know about this game. I'm worried, sure, but it's also incredibly stimulating." On this side, Elshin was holding a walkie-talkie, thinking, something isn't quite right. I used to serve in the military, so I was very strict about mission reporting. He frowned. How could someone who knows the situation well still recklessly violate the rules like that? Then he tapped on the walkie-talkie. "My instincts are telling me this is a trap." He raised the device and ordered the other side. "Leader speaking. The guy in the laboratory is acting very strangely. Everyone divert there for me." The other side replied, "What? Understood. Roger that." He turned to the medical team captain. "Doctor, where are the escape pods in the engine room of this ship?" The other man stammered, "But please follow me, sir." Elchin clenched his fist. "No one is allowed to touch my warship." He looked at the prepared bomb. "I must quickly find the emergency exit and plant the bomb in the engine room. The ship uses a nuclear reactor engine, so leaving a small bomb behind is enough."
Imagining the explosion, he thought, "After safely leaving here, I will detonate the time bomb remotely. That terrible monster will be blown to pieces along with this spaceship." Thinking of this, he felt smug. Of course, his subordinates staying on the ship would definitely die, but there were plenty of others out there who wanted to become bandits. He walked while smiling a wicked smile. "I'll just take Manoon and the doctor with me." Then he suddenly spoke up. "Hey, doctor?" The doctor heard this and panicked. "Yes?" Elchin asked. "You fought that monster, so you must know something about it, right? Does it have any weaknesses?" The doctor immediately replied, "No, sir." Hearing this, he got angry. "What?" A subordinate heard this and got annoyed, pointing a gun at the doctor. "You there, answer properly." The head of the medical team was terrified. "I'm telling the truth."
Elchin rubbed his chin, thinking to himself, this guy is just a coward, terrified just looking at me. But is that all he has to say? He crossed his arms and thought, this proves this doctor fears that monster even more than he fears me. On the side, the purple-haired subordinate continued to threaten, giving me attitude. "Tired of living, are you?" Then Elchin raised his voice and asked, "So what are its strengths or traits?" The doctor immediately said in panic, "It moves like a ghost." Elchin put his hands on his hips, asking, "A ghost?" The other guy immediately confirmed, "Yes,
It devours humans in the blink of an eye, leaving not a single piece of the body behind, making it take us a long time to even realize someone was missing. Elchin asked further, "Isn't it just because you guys are stupid?" The head of the medical team panicked seeing that. The security system on the ship is arranged very densely, and there are many people, so it's hard for us to keep track of everything. He continued, but it avoided all of that and ceased not to kill people. If it's not a ghost, I don't know what to compare it to. Hearing this, Elchin raised his walkie-talkie. Sounds absurd, but he doesn't look like he's lying. Time to gather my subordinates.
Elton ordered over the walkie-talkie, "Leader here, plans have changed." He was completely unaware that on this end the person holding the walkie-talkie was no longer his subordinate, but a morph. He continued, "We will regroup in full formation before heading to the laboratory. Everyone make it quick." Hearing this, he thought to himself, "Smart." He looked at the walkie-talkie and smiled. His voice mimicry skill had deceived the humans, yet this guy wasn't fooled. Was it due to the natural instincts of a mutant giant? Then he used his power, but it was already too late. He scanned the image of those bandits. They were grumbling incessantly, but still followed orders to return. A morph thought, "This time I will use a new method to deal with them." Then he plunged his tentacles into the wall. He used his power, nest construction strategy. A large hole appeared on the wall. His cognitive ability would be transmitted through the tree branches. And those electric sparks crept throughout the base. The sensory flow would coordinate with his consciousness, controlling every corridor and room here. He looked at the bandits below. Having completed the connection of the auxiliary organs, now they were truly lying in the palm of his hand.
Seemingly sensing something, the bandits bewilderedly turned to look at each other. They felt black smoke creeping into the base. He thought to himself, "Activate paralysis spores." Immediately, the smoke suppressed them, making them unable to breathe. Over here, some were vomiting, others trampled on each other to flee. In no time, the ground was littered with the bodies of the bandits. Seeing that scene, he thought to himself that normally one must reach the adolescent state to easily use the nest construction strategy, so he only tried it out of curiosity, but unexpectedly, it worked right away. He whittled his body. So tired. Then he walked away. Using too much energy made him suddenly feel very hungry. Ameep saw this and hopped along. "Where are you going?" He replied, "I'm hungry. Let's go eat." Ameep agreed. "Okay." Immediately, he arrived where the soldiers had just fainted. He reached out a hand and grabbed a soldier. He stuffed him into his mouth, devouring every piece of flesh.
Then he looked around and thought to himself, bandits will always be bandits, sharing the blessings but fending for themselves when disaster strikes. He stuck out his long tongue to savor the moment, but ignored them. Getting food without having to fight was too good of a deal for him. Over on this side, Ameep also got a share of the luck, currently munching voraciously on someone's hand. A morph opened the system panel. Among the 7 he just killed were robots. How many more would he need to evolve? He looked at the system panel and thought, that's 8 robots now, so he needed 2 more. He was about to reach the adolescent stage. The system panel read, "You have completed one of the conditions to evolve from juvenile to adolescent. First, intelligent creature, 10 of 10, completed. Second, intelligent creature, 8 of 10, incomplete." Assessing the situation, he stroked his chin and thought 5 of them had fled. Then he looked towards the entrance, towards the training room. With so many other places, why did they rush in there? Right now, those guys were behind that door. He thought they probably considered it a good spot to observe and shoot from, since the training room was much more spacious than the other rooms. Their fearful faces appeared in his mind. The only problem was that the crew had thought the exact same thing before. The bandits piled up tables and chairs to block the door. He thought the place they used to use to bond with their teammates had long since been turned into a slaughterhouse by him. Thinking of this, he delightedly pressed his ear against the door and laughed loudly. He could sense their pheromones and breath behind this door. They must be in shock at the sight inside the room. Seeing that scene, Ameep wondered, not understanding what was happening. He turned to speak to Ameep. "It's dangerous. Hide behind me quickly." Ameep obediently replied, "Okay." Immediately, he used his fingers to pry open the door. More than 20 people had already lost their lives here.
Then he broke down the door and rushed in. Killing 5 more guys meant nothing to him. Seeing him, those guys immediately opened fire at Amorph. His armor layers completely withstood those bullets. It was incredibly sturdy. He continued to charge forward. Those bullets felt like they were just scratching an itch. The vice leader was terrified. "Damn it, why is it unharmed?" He immediately pulled something out. "Take this." He switched it on, emitting a strange blue light. He pointed that iron rod at him. "You bastard, do you know who I am? I am the vice leader of the Drava cartel." He was so scared that he swung it wildly. "Come at me if you dare." Seeing that blue light, he thought to himself, is that a light sword? That thing hitting my armor would actually hurt. He silently assessed the man in front of him, but having a good weapon in hand without knowing how to use it was useless. The auxiliary organs informed him that this was just a mediocre man in his 30s with a few lifestyle diseases. He approached. He was no stranger to these hasty bandits.
The other side immediately raised the sword. You got guts, huh?
But it mattered not. He immediately inflicted damage upon him, causing him to scream in pain. Then his hand slammed him onto the ground. A large pool of blood immediately appeared on his body, yet he still raised his sword. You bastard! At this moment, he approached the man, truly surprising. After Arnold, it took this long to encounter prey this stubborn. Immediately, he thrust his claws into his head. He had to finish this quickly so he wouldn't suffer any more pain. Afterwards, he collapsed helplessly. While devouring him, he thought, 4 left. They must be hiding in the locker room by now. Suddenly, a notification from the system panel rang out. His eyes widened. What is this? He was curious. Human instinct? The system displayed information. Activated predatory effect. Successfully obtained human instinct gene. Received human instinct from the biological characteristics of humanity. Do you want to use human instinct? While ravenously eating the man, he thought, human instinct? What kind of trait is this? The name sounds too all-encompassing. But his hands still pressed yes. Now is not the time to be picky. Should I accept it? The chromosomes immediately appeared. In space survival, there are countless traits, but not every trait brings good effects to the user.
Remembering the image of Elchin, a typical example of a follower of the mutant giants, their physical strength doubles, but they lose the ability to control themselves. At this moment, he had chewed down to the last foot, reading while thinking. There are traits where the downsides outweigh the upsides, and traits with vague names often lead to death. He was still drifting in his thoughts. The universe of space survival is nothing like paradise. It is filled with cruel people. Meanwhile, Amit was playing with the light sword.
He thought about the events, the scientists, the robots, the Star River Association who kidnap people to turn them into cyborgs, and Megacorp creating monsters by genetically modifying them at will. Then he nodded. This is a place where creatures like them lead human civilization, so how could there be any trait that involves human qualities? He looked at the other guy's foot he was eating. If this is something that can enhance human emotions, it will surely be disadvantageous for Amorph, a creature that prioritizes intellect above all else. He then turned towards the no option. This bet is too risky. I'll decline. But suddenly, a jolt of electricity zapped through, making him sweat. His 2 fangs immediately protruded, and he thought anxiously, my auxiliary organs are telling me to reconsider? Is it that important? He rubbed his chin. These tiny tentacles have never forced me into a dangerous path before. I guess they can be trusted. He immediately pressed the yes button, accepting it. Immediately, a light shone upon him. He was startled and looked at his hand, but nothing happened. Amorph looked back at the system panel. No extra parts had grown on his head, nor did he feel any guilt. He thought to himself, it seems this human instinct trait is classified as a mental trait. 3 more and I will receive this type of psionic enhancement. The system panel read, currently specialized in 1 type, psionic enhancement 3 of 6, senses, smell, superhuman organs, human instinct. Then he looked at the system panel again to see the detailed description of human instinct. The information immediately appeared. Human instinct helps one make correct decisions when faced with choices. Note, do not let yourself regret your choices.
Seeing this, he scratched his head. Not good, not bad either. Then he turned off the system panel, focusing on the fact that he was about to complete the conditions for this type. From afar, Amit ran over. Is baby okay? He turned around. What is it? Amit replied. Baby is acting very strange, not moving at all. Immediately she jumped onto him. He thought to himself, I am not the one you should be worried about. Then he walked away with her. Suddenly, a scent rushed straight into his nose. He stuck out his tongue to enjoy it. I've scented the smell of the bandits from every corner of the training room. Don't hope that any of you can escape my grasp. A scream echoed through the corridor, full of misery. Help me, please spare me. His whole body trembled. Am I next? He still tried to deceive himself that he lived a better life than those people. Clearly, he was still kinder than those guys. So why did he have to? Suddenly, there was a strange noise as if something was approaching, compelling him to turn his head and look. Seemingly having a bad premonition, his whole body trembled uncontrollably, and his breathing gradually became heavy. He silently prayed for protection. Leader Zubaka, please protect me. Coincidentally, a morph smelled that guy standing behind the door. Zubaka, please. Perhaps due to mercy, he turned around, sparing that guy's life. Hearing the sound gradually fading away, he sighed with relief, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. His hands went limp, and his shoulders relaxed. After this job, I have to go into hiding forever. He secretly thought that if he had a chance to live, he would leave this devilish guild. That's right, I will go to the Star River Association, and no one, not even the Drava cartel, can... But suddenly, something caused his eyes to turn bright red, his pupils shrinking. Right when he let his guard down, an invisible force aimed at his stomach, leaving him unable to defend himself, his eyes wide in disbelief. Taking advantage of the moment the robot soldier was distracted, a hand suddenly pierced into his stomach. It was a morph. He slipped his sharp hand into the hole he had just created. Then that hole widened. He thought a morph had left, but unexpectedly a morph had intentionally set a trap,
waiting for the moment. He paid no attention and let his guard down. A morph bared his sharp teeth covered in red syrup, leaving him unable to manage, crying out and begging, "Spare, no."
And then what was bound to happen finally happened. A massacre took place. Soon, only the robot eyes of that ill-fated soldier fell to the ground. A morph munched on his God-sent meal while thinking, "How did you think you could hide, kid?" While eating, he mentally calculated how many robots were left. 7 robots down, just need 1 more. On the other side, Sayun, the last person a morph mentioned, was sitting there typing and organizing data. But the problem was that this last one was in the control room, and the person he wanted to avoid the most was also there, the genetically modified woman whom he assumed belonged to the Sujin family. After finishing his meal, a morph left, planning in his head as he walked, deciding to deal with the ringleader first. Suddenly, something in front of his eyes made him stunned, freezing for a few seconds.
A force flew in from nowhere. Luckily, he dodged it in time. "You bastard, there you are!" Amorv quickly jumped up to the ceiling, his hands and feet clinging to it. It was Elchin, now filled with rage because he dared to eliminate his subordinates. "You laid hands on my subordinates and then dared to kill the vice leader too?" Standing before the tall body, behind Elchin were 2 subordinates. He didn't expect Elchin to find him first, but this was actually more convenient. Looking from top to bottom, he couldn't help but critique his appearance. Mutant giants have a lot of premium genes, and he needed to supplement more genes before entering the control room. Behind him was a robot subordinate and the head of the medical team. The head of the medical team is here too? He would actually side with the bandits? That's a surprise. A morph jumped down. It didn't matter. They would all end up in his belly anyway. Ameb stood on his shoulder, the two whispering back and forth. "Hee, go find a hiding place quickly. So scary. Be careful." After speaking, she jumped down to find cover. "Hee, don't worry." Hearing those 2 safe-sounding words, she quickly leaped off his shoulder. "Okay." She rapidly jumped far away to find a favorable spot to hide. In no time, Ameb found a hiding spot, changing color to match the shelter. Ameb didn't forget to worry, reminding Ameb, "Baby, be careful." He approached to observe and probe Elchin. He had to admit this guy looked scarier than he thought. Observing his robust body, estimating the height, he was as big as an elephant, over 3 meters tall. Some would say looking at him there was no chance to win, but regardless, appearance was just an excuse. Amorv calculated, since he was a modified mutant giant, let's see what he has for him.
On the screen, Amorv confronted Elchin, followed by his subordinates. "Hey, should we go out there right now? Do you want to get your head twisted off by the leader?" The 2 stood in front of the screen, chatting idly. "He told us to stay here and help Mangun. Honestly, have the 2 of us ever been of any help to anyone?" The robot guard asked Siyun about the situation. "Hey Mangun, how much longer?" Siyun stammered in response. "Almost done." The robot guard began to get annoyed, his voice turning grumpy. "It's just that one task. Why are you being so slow? It might be a bit outdated, but this is still the AI system of a megacorp warship." Hearing his voice, "And it's also the core of both computer science and space technology, so it's not easy to manipulate. Speak human, would you?" He threatened her with a few sentences and turned to leave, but didn't forget to urge her. "Hurry it up so we can go help the leader." "Okay." Waiting for their footsteps to fade away, she felt a burden lifted. Arnold did very well. But inside Siyun's head, her thoughts were completely contrary to her recent expression. The monster had cleverly used a layer of smoke to hide itself, but how could it escape her eyes and the remote tracking unit? She looked at the data panel. It had swept through the central laboratory and disposed of all the gene samples. The intelligence of this creature was not trivial at all.
Looking closely at the experimental data, Sayan seemed to see something that made her eyes light up and her pupils contract. Based on the report, it only took the gene samples, which meant it knew how to use its own skills. She raised her abnormal arm and moved it a few times, a series of questions appearing in her mind. Could this be a type of monster that absorbs genes to evolve? So it was similar to her. On the screen, Elchin still stood there without a single reaction or change in state. She judged, then it was too obvious. Elchin was no match for it. An unseen hand was controlling Elchin like a puppet. He was just a monster enhanced according to someone else's will, a pitiful creature. Perhaps he didn't even know where he was born. Sayan smirked, a terrifying smile. Just when she was sick to death of that old man, she stumbled upon good news. She walked towards where Elchin's 2 subordinates were standing guard. These bandits were of no use to her anymore, so she had to take this opportunity to reduce the number of genes that monster could take over. Seeing Sayan approach, the 2 men seemed to implicitly understand that she was done. "Mainun, are you finished? Then let's go." But after walking a few steps, Sayan stopped at a distance that was just right, neither too far nor too close, making the 2 of them wonder. She said nothing, only gently lowered her glasses. Mainun had many names.
A sword appeared in Si-hyun's hand, prepared at an unknown time. Dropping the lab coat, she revealed a cold, killing intent that scared the 2 soldiers pale. Megacorp's enemies call her the Mystic Witch, but the family calls her the Demon Shadow and always treats her with awe and fear.
To understand more about her, here is some rumored information. Akira Sujin, the head, calls her Code White, while to the man who was once her father, she is Sijin. This woman is the miniature version of the Sujin family's genetic technology and the sole heir to a forgotten lineage of this house.
A beastly foot came charging in. Elchin began to unleash his move, raising his claws, a decisive punch aimed at Amorph's head. He wasn't one to be trifled with either, aiming straight for the opponent's hip. It seemed Elchin anticipated this, so he knocked Amorph's arm away, not forgetting to let out a light snort. He roared. Seeing the situation was unfavorable, Amorph retreated. Feeling the instability within his body, he hummed lightly. After retreating a certain distance, Amorph clearly felt his body. His superhuman organs were gradually going numb, as if suddenly realizing, perhaps during the engagement with Elchin, he had activated a grenade. When did he activate the shock grenade? Amorph thought inwardly. But did he think Amorph was like those combat robots? He was sorely mistaken, but the weapon he chose wasn't bad. Elchin spoke up, interrupting his train of thought. So you are not a new weapon created by the Star River Association. He asked him directly. You understand what I'm saying, right? Then he raised his hand, revealing a switch hidden in his mane. As if suddenly realizing, this must be a detonator switch. A detonator switch?
Elchin explained, I have planted a bomb in the nuclear reactor, and the detonator is synchronized with my heart. His next words sounded like a threat. So if you kill me, this whole ship will explode, and everyone will die here. Amorph seemed to suddenly understand. A bomb? The two people behind looked clearly worried. The doctor's expression confirmed what he had just said. The problem was whether he would detonate the bomb or not. In Amorph's mind, there was a bit of admiration for Elchin's intellect. This guy really valued his own life. Superior intelligence, a transcendent body, and arrogance reaching the skies. Not only that, but he also acknowledged that his will to live was extremely intense. Nothing could extinguish his survival instinct. Just then, Elchin activated the bomb. Initially, the red blood cells inside him were in a normal state. After pressing the button, his red blood cells began to activate, linking up and changing color. Gradually, the color became darker, and they grew larger. A scream full of pain accompanied a mouthful of red syrup gushing out of Elchin's mouth. Elchin activated the bomb on his person. The red blood cells were in their initial state, but they began to change in both color and size. The color gradually darkened, and the size grew larger. He suddenly screamed aloud. Elchin's hand transformed. A cracking sound rang out. His entire body emitted a thick red aura accompanied by growls. His legs gradually went limp as if there was no strength left in them. Looking at him, he was no different from a monster devoid of life. Then he screamed loudly. Witnessing that scene, Amorph was a bit surprised. This guy is so hideous. It's just gene transplantation. What's so great about it? Elchin's foot stomped down with a boom, causing debris below to fly out. Amorph stood analyzing. With a physique of this size, it was very likely that he possessed the genes of a moundwalker, a species with a hard shell, also known by another name, the rock dragon. Elchin continued to roar furiously, but Amorph quickly dodged his attack. Its tail pressed close to Elchin's ribs. What Amorph was aiming for was the bomb hidden in his heart. Unfortunately, Elchin extinguished that thought with a thunderous blow to the head. He smiled radiantly, thinking he had won. But when he looked closely, he realized that the strike had no effect on Amorph whatsoever. Amorph immediately ran away to escape. He angrily punched the floor. Damn bug.
Then the two of them just stared at each other for a moment. He was also surprised by his own strength, not expecting that rock-hard head to nearly finish him off with that last hit. I kept wondering why he was hugging that bomb so tightly and what this guy's plot was. Stepping back a bit to speculate, turns out it was a dirty trick. Elchin seemed to read Amorph's mind. No matter how you attack, it's useless. He continued to think of a way to attack. Except for the heart area, there weren't many places left for him to target. Observing closely, he realized the shell covering his arms and legs was too hard. Without a plasma weapon, no other weapon could destroy them. Elchin was also observing Amorph. I just need to stab that guy's body once, and I win. But it seemed he had seen through this and was aiming for his tail. To understand his strengths and weaknesses better, he made a move. But that didn't affect Amorph at all. What a pity. My tail isn't the only dangerous thing on my body. But then he also gently dodged Elchin. Amorph just jumped back a few meters. Meanwhile, Elchin chased after him fiercely. Changing tactics. I can secrete toxins from my teeth and fingernails. Now I just need to break that shell and attack him. Then victory is firmly in my hands.
Clutching a device in hand, how exactly can I get past that shield he's always so proud of? It is time to bring the light sword into battle. From the start, Elton was no match for him. Furthermore, the mutant giants have a fatal weakness. Amorph deliberately led him to a specific location. He just needed to hold out until that weakness was exposed. The place he led Elton to was an area full of wooden crates, the ship's hold where he first woke up, a perfect place to stall him. Switching scenes to where a swarm of cockroaches had gathered, a strange noise emitted nearby. Those footsteps belonged to Elton. He cursed incessantly as he walked. "You little brat!"
He seemed out of control, punching every obstacle in front of him. The cockroaches ran around in panic. While running, one cried out as it was pierced by a sharp object. It was Amorph using his tail as a skewer to snack on it. I absolutely stand no chance fighting against this terrifying strength. He analyzed based on his appearance. Mutant giants are strong and fast, but they consume stamina very quickly, so there will be a moment when he has to rest to recover. Amorph hit at a distance just far enough to avoid detection. If I continue to provoke that guy until he's exhausted, even if he doesn't want to, his body won't allow him to continue attacking. My only choice is to wait. On Elton's side, he ran looking for Amorph, his mouth cursing nonstop. "You damn bug, where are you hiding?" It turned out Amorph was hiding high up, so Elton didn't see him while running. Almost there.
But then he suddenly realized, right, that guy has two hearts. Wonder which one is linked to the detonator. He suddenly realized that inside Elchin's body there are two hearts. The main heart of mutant giants is usually on the left, so it is very likely he chose that one to connect with the detonator. He calculated how to approach him, but this guy is very smart, so he couldn't be sure about that yet. A voice cut through Amorph's train of thought. "You filthy bastard!" A thunderous punch flew towards him. Fortunately, Amorph dodged in time. Seeing a narrow path, he ran inside. Then he jumped high onto the wooden crates. Coward, only good at running. His left knee had been seriously injured at some unknown point.
Elchin was furious because he had almost caught him, unable to hold back a roar. Amorph stood above watching him. Oh, this guy must have been modified, so his weaknesses have been reduced somewhat. He stood looking down, observing his every move. By rights, he should have stopped moving by now, yet nothing had changed except for his speed. However, just standing there watching was useless. Amorph jumped down, though it seemed Elchin could hardly avoid having to rest for a moment. He silently leaped high, preparing to attack Elchin from behind. Seeming to sense it, Elchin immediately grabbed a brick from the ground nearby. Elchin turned and threw bricks continuously at Amorph, shouting, "Die!" His reflexes were too fast, but fortunately Amorph managed to dodge. After no more bricks were thrown at him, he landed on one knee. Seeing Amorph remained untouched, Elchin screamed in anger. Taking advantage of Amorph's approach, he raised his fist and punched the top of his head. But Amorph's expression didn't change. He only let out a light scoff.
The opportunity had arrived. Unbeknownst to him, he was already holding a sword in his hand behind his back. The chance was here. A swing struck Elchin's right arm. He turned around, opening his jaws, preparing to bite into his arm, leaving him no time to counterattack. What the? A bite sank quite deep into the arm, causing Elchin to let out a miserable scream. Amorph caused that part of his arm to burst apart. Before he could resist, he opened his mouth to bite. What the? Severe pain radiated from the arm bitten by Amorph. He was flung back against the wall. "How dare you bite me?" Elchin turned the tables and took the initiative to attack. Bastard! As he rushed forward, his body suddenly froze. Huh? It was as if he suddenly understood that this was all Amorph's doing. Elchin's hands trembled uncontrollably. Impossible. His legs wouldn't stop shaking. No. Elchin himself had no strength left to resist. Impossible. Just as he collapsed to the ground, he approached. Amorph had successfully neutralized him. The numbing effect wasn't as effective as when used on humans, but the toxins were surely spreading. With great difficulty, Elchin uttered a few words. "Save me." Taking this chance, he continued his work. Pieces of Elchin's flesh were thrown everywhere. Then Amorph found it. Here it is. Inside him was an important object, a detonator connected to the second heart, located on his right side. Just a bit of force would activate the timer. Elchin had calculated the concealment of the detonator. This heart limits the side effects of genetic modification. Since he knew he might die if this part was damaged, did that guy want to drag me down with him? While disarming the detonator, he secretly calculated that it would take a while, but after removing the detonator, should I consume all the gene samples of the mutant giants? Suddenly, a voice interrupted. "Baby!" Being interrupted while busy with important matters. "Rascal! I told you to hide already." Amoeb had an urgent matter to report. "Baby, we are in trouble." Amorph turned to her with suspicion. "Rascal, what is it?" He was startled when witnessing the future vision. Amoeb would be incinerated, and Amorph himself would struggle to survive. Seeing the cruel outcome, he immediately came to his senses. Escaping from here right now is the best policy. Damn it! Amorph did not forget to bring Amoeb along. Just leaving there, behind, was a sea of fire. Sihan walked slowly. "Hiding already?" She walked with an extremely arrogant demeanor. "Let me guess where you were hiding. I really want to know." I didn't expect to meet Sihan this early. Sihan Sujin. I originally planned to deal with her last, but I didn't expect her to come here herself. The strange point here is her hand. A light sword protrudes from her arm. This woman's genes have been mixed with the genes of the white Galgans and high-level parts. Sihan's appearance is distinctly different. Not to mention, just looking with the naked eye shows she has dozens of other genes inside her. In this situation, I definitely cannot fight her. Her eyes are unusually crazy. My whole body is constantly warning me, do not confront that creature. What is Sihan planning with Elchin? I have to endure, take a step back, and rearrange everything. He struggled to call her name.
Manun. Sihan struck ruthlessly at the weak body. You did very well. The sword stabbed straight into Elchin's heart. She was not only cold, but also cruel. How could I let you escape, right?
Sehun's actions threatened a morph. Damn it, what should I do? Every move he made was cautious. The sword tip just poking her neck must have certainly activated the bomb's timer. Rushing into attack now would be no different from suicide. Sehun glanced over at Amorph. I must observe the enemy further, try to gather more information. Her eyes belong to an outer space observer, right? Or is it that desperado? He spoke first. I have a proposal. She said straight out. It seems you are like me, so I will spare your life, but on one condition. You must become my subordinate. Sehun didn't want to spare anyone. In other words, I want you to become my pet. Sehun showed an attitude of disdain towards Amorph. It seems you are like me, so I will spare your life, but on one condition. You must become my subordinate. What she meant by this, in other words, I want you to become my pet. Sehun explained further. You are also a creature dependent on genes, so only I am suitable to be your master. She hinted at her invitation. Come here to me. That disgusting Sehun Sujin is demanding that I become her subordinate.
The two sides silently observed each other for hours. Amorph thought carefully about the request from Sehun. It wasn't a lie, and she had no reason to lie anyway. Perhaps he was currently at a disadvantage. The sword she was using was the claw of a Gallagher, and even his shell would be pierced through in one go. Could this have been predetermined, and did she have a dozen other weapons to destroy him? Damn it. Amorph himself calculated over and over. Honestly speaking, surrendering to this woman was a very reasonable choice. Sehun smiled with satisfaction of this decision. The sound of friction as he slowly approached her was no different from a creature crawling to acknowledge its master. That's right, you have made a wise choice. Amip comforted him as Amorph was gradually submitting. I'm here, don't be afraid. What he was doing here wasn't everything. Sehun didn't know the reason why he chose to like Amorph. Amorph is a type of monster that doesn't surrender so easily. She also didn't know why he was so crazy about this terrible, useless character, or why everyone called him Amorph Park on online communities. For him, the reason was very simple, being able to choose freely. And at the same time, he himself did not like restrictions, using choices made by himself to become infinitely stronger. This was the plan Amorph chose himself. I like Amorph for that point, exactly because of that. So in the end, you still chose to face me? I only have one choice. Amorph was unclear why Amorph remained silent. Baby? Sehun thought he had truly accepted his fate. Good boy, that is how it should be. But perhaps not, because she suddenly froze, her pupils changing. It was Amorph slashing straight at Sehun's face. After that, he intended to escape from here. Hold on tight. Okay. Of all people you chose to provoke someone with crazy blood, I understand now. So is that the choice you made? She decided to chase down the one who dared to provoke her to the very end. Want to play with me? I'm afraid you should prepare for this place to turn into a blazing hell. This place was also about to collapse and was no longer safe. Of the 36 stratagems, running is the best policy. This woman is much stronger than me. This will also be the toughest opponent since I became an Amorph. Remembering the combat experience he had accumulated after many trials. But I have weighed myself against so many strong enemies and always won. I will teach her a lesson so she knows that in battle, physical strength is not everything. Suddenly, a strange noise where the glass was appeared in the ruins.
A robotic hand appeared, clutching the ground. It was Elchin, lucky to find a chance to survive. That damn woman, recalling Sehun Sujin's actions, made him furious. How dare she betray me? I must take her down, then make her kneel and beg for mercy. But Elchin's heart component was not stable. Damn it, the device is broken. If I don't get to the engine room within 10 minutes, everything will end here. He struggled to use all his remaining strength to climb up. Me, die here? Not a chance. Elchin was determined not to lose his life on this battlefield. I am Elchin Drava, not like those other useless trash. Elchin used all his remaining strength, reminding himself again, I am Elchin Drava, not like those other useless trash. On this side, Amorph wasn't idle either. He was trying to escape. Amit felt worried and asked him, does baby's leg hurt a lot? Heh, it's much better. She feared Amorph couldn't handle it. Really? Heh, really. The fear here was that Sehun Sujin's daredevil eyes possessed X-ray vision, so a surprise attack was impossible. Sehun seemed to track every single move. No matter how well I hide, she will find me, and if I'm not mistaken, this woman possesses other sensory-related skills as well. Amit remembered the bomb that had been set. Time was urgent now. Stalling wouldn't help. Perhaps she already knows what I'm about to do. She surely guessed that I'm worried about the bomb, so she plans to use the escape pod to flee. He predicted the battle between them. Most likely, Sehun Sujin's plan will be to block every route to that ship, then corner me.
Soo-hyun certainly won't hesitate to swing her sword, and then she will use her immense strength to force me to surrender. This could be called a standard tactic. Amorph reflected carefully. That was also the move he used on the bandits. It feels just like fighting another player. He continued to run, thinking that running as fast as possible was best, but now he must focus on dealing with the enemy first. The bomb can wait, and whatever is unclear will be known once he faces her. He is carefully calculating a plan. The main problem is that both his attack and defense capabilities are much inferior to the enemy. There must be a way.
Then suddenly Amorph remembered an important matter. That's right, it was the vial of medicine, as if intuition told him that vial would light the way to save his life. The item in that laboratory could help him turn the tables. It was psionium. He only needed it to use the adolescent body for a certain period of time. Soo-hyun's flames seemed to burn up the whole sky. The move she just used was called Sword Dance, a technique of the Gallagher, utilizing even spiritual power. Currently, he wasn't strong enough, but if he had that medicine, he would definitely become stronger. Currently, I cannot resist spiritual power, but once I reach the adolescent stage, I will obtain that resistance. Those calculations helped Amorph gain a source of strength. If these claws could just scratch that Soo-hyun woman once, my armor layer could completely withstand it. But everything has two sides, that potion included. I will be able to attack from a distance too. The only downside is that it consumes a bit too much energy. The matter to focus on is dealing with Soo-hyun, so I just need to finish her off within the time limit. This isn't the time to worry about energy anymore. He reassured Imeep after making the plan. Wait a bit. Amorph left her behind alone, going somewhere. I have to go get some stuff. Taking advantage of that time, he rummaged through every nook and cranny. I remember it being around this area. Luckily, I found it. Here it is. But then he suddenly hesitated. When using it in the game, I only saw a single line of notification activating the buff appear. I don't know what it will be like in real life. But at this dead end, I cannot hesitate. I must find out for myself. Ameep called out from afar to warn him. Baby, don't! Amorph did not understand the reason for her action. Huh? What's wrong? She remained silent, without a single reply. Why are you showing such an attitude? The danger is that Soo-hyun will attack unexpectedly. Normally, I would wait for her to give an answer. Without hesitation, he downed the vial of medicine. But right now, there isn't much time left. Just a few seconds later, Amorph felt a strange sensation. The potion had really taken effect in his body. His whole body felt like it was on fire. Body parts began to transform. His whole body rippled with muscles and bulging purple veins. This transformation made Amorph unable to bear it, screaming in pain. It hurt so much. His knees also rippled with muscles, veins bulging clearly.
A stream of black smoke appeared, surrounding his entire body uninterruptedly. His silhouette then completely changed. His eyes also changed after this transformation. In no time, his massive appearance grew several times larger in size. Ameep happily hopped around. Wow! She looked up at Amorph's new form. The big baby has grown bigger again. He looked at his transformed body, marveling inwardly. It was a success. Just then, the system displayed a notification. The system showed updated information after Amorph leveled up. Species, Space-Aggressive Xenomorph, MDHK. State, Adolescent, Temporary. Goal, Survival. First Evolution Successful. Current traits, Super Senses, Wings, Chitin Shell, Paralysis Poison, Reinforced Exoskeleton, Acid Blood, Reinforced Leg Strength, Mimicry, Natural Recovery, Tentacle Blade, Polluted Organs, Bone Spike Launcher, Temporary, Super Strength, including Merged Predatory Senses, Superhuman Organs, Human Instinct, Super Resistance. Type, Physical Enhancement. He read and memorized the new features. There were changes in the traits. The reinforced shell had been upgraded to an extraordinary form. Horns also grew on his head. I grew some awesome horns on my head. Using them to stab or ram enemies would be perfect. Then he glanced around his body. Looking closely, his arms had also changed, growing new deformations. In his left arm had even grown a bone spike launcher. The power of this thing was equivalent to a plasma launcher, and he could even apply traits to it.
Observing every sharp detail on his hand, the shell part had been added with a shield layer to protect himself from spiritual power. With it, he was more than capable of blocking attacks from Gallagher claws. After carefully examining his new form, he calculated the duration of the drug. Now he just needed to check the remaining time limit. The effect of psionium in the game would last for 5 minutes. He speculated that its effect might be equivalent to that in the game, so it was likely the same in reality. Looking at the map, there was a red dot. That Soo-hyun was already within his sensory range. He had to hurry. He secretly resolved that he must drain her physical strength as much as possible before they had to confront each other again. Focusing all his power into the soles of his feet, connect. 5 minutes was not a lot of time, so he had to finish setting up his formation as quickly as possible. The scene shifts to Soo-hyun stepping forward in search of Amorph.
Suddenly, her steps halted. Looking up at the ceiling, strange fluids were shifting. The liquid gathered into a sphere, compressing in preparation for an attack. A stream of liquid sprayed out, engulfing the area above Soo-hyun. Instead of dodging, she smirked, a smile that looked very much like she was enjoying it. That smile became increasingly twisted as she counterattacked. In a corner, the warship exploded.
Consequently, the interior of the ship began to experience significant tremors. Amorph instinctively felt that Sihun was approaching. She was coming. He hugged Ameep tightly so as not to drop her, whispering, "I'm preparing to run. Hold on tight." "Okay." His legs braced for momentum, one knee bent down into a posture ready to launch. Meanwhile, he thought about how to lure Sihun to the nuclear reactor. Just one sword strike from Sihun and his muscles would be reduced to nothing, so he had to lure her to the nuclear reactor. Because if they reached that place, she wouldn't be able to unleash her full power. Once there, she wouldn't dare attack with full force. Just a touch or a light flick would be enough to blow everything to pieces.
No matter what Sihun is like, she cannot defeat the nuclear reactor. No matter how many genes she has in her body, she cannot survive a nuclear explosion. Amorph suddenly remembered a suitable area to do that. Just one more area to go. He hadn't gone far when suddenly Sihun was standing in front of him. She looked half-crazed with a terrifying smile, asking him, "Where do you think you're going?" But without letting Amorph reply, Sihun unleashed the sword hidden within the sleeve of her arm. Seeing the critical situation, the first thing he did was throw Amy far away. Damn it! Without a preamble, Sihun started unleashing her moves. That sword strike created flames rushing towards Amorph. Luckily, he reacted in time and dodged that attack quickly. Amorph threw Amy away to avoid getting involved. Damn it! Sihun unleashed a move, raising the sword to create an arc of fire. That fire hit Amorph. The flames continuously created slashing runes on his body. Fortunately, he had observed Sihun's attack in time. He had just clearly seen her claw attack. Sihun's power was absolutely terrifying. Normally, he wouldn't have been able to see anything. Is it thanks to the superhuman intrinsic?
But she suddenly stopped, tilting her head to the side in confusion. Amorph put all his strength into his feet to gain momentum, then gathered his lifelong strength to rush straight at her. Sihun smirked, her pupils invisible, and swung her hand. A strike created a straight line, and bright red liquid gushed out. Although he managed to dodge, a sharp pain numbed Amorph's entire body, leaving him speechless, only screaming silently. Because of that, she became even more excited, moving faster than before, didn't she? Then, Sihun raised her leg to kick, but Amorph dodged in time. He also retaliated, but she was no ordinary opponent. Sihun laughed loudly, her voice arrogant. "A light counterattack, but it's still nothing to me." Just as she revealed an opening, Amorph used his tentacles to wrap tightly around her. Seizing this moment, Amorph used his remaining tentacle to attack Sihun head-on, his sharp tentacles only a few millimeters away from stabbing her eye. In that hair-breadth moment, Sihun reacted in time, knocking Amorph's tentacle away. But in exchange, one of her swords was corroded and flew far away. That broken sword grew long again. "Not bad," Sihun grinned. Perhaps this was the first person to make her feel this excited. "You have successfully driven me into a corner." Sihun changed her appearance, her black hair turning into red hair. Amorph was surprised and could not believe it. "What is that? Red hair? Impossible!"